and welcome to RPG Research. Today we're doing a special broadcast. This is not our normal schedule of half a dozen shows that we do each week. We are doing an unboxing of the brand new Call of Cthulhu 7th edition starter kit. Oh, I need to get rid of that overhead. We don't need that overhead right now. Starter edition box set here. Now before we do it, I'm glad to see everybody lining up here to check it out. Actually, let's go ahead and put it under the camera. I'll turn that back on just so that build the anticipation. Excellent. So, I am. Here's what I have not opened that box yet. I took the outer wrapping off, but I stopped myself from opening the box in anticipation. And I don't know how many of you are Cthulhu fans versus general role-playing game fans. But if you don't know about RPG Research, RPG Research is a 501c3 nonprofit charitable organization that studies the effects of all role-playing game formats: tabletop, live action, computer-based, and solo adventure books and modules. So electronic role-playing games and solo adventure books and modules. And then hybrids. There's the fifth type, which is kind of all the different types. We're at rpgresearch.com. And we're doing a special thing today. When we unbox this, we're going to do an audience interactive where you guys, if you're a donor, if you're a Patreon supporter, or if you want to make a one-time or subscriber PayPal subscription, you will be able to help make choices as we play through some of this. So you, in the audience, if you're a donor, will be able to help. Or if you're a subscriber, if you've got a subscription through Twitch as well. Any subscription will do. So this is a fundraiser for the nonprofit. But before we open it, I have been ranting for years about how role-playing game companies don't get it about what a true starter set is. So we've seen all the different D&D starter sets. We've done a bunch of we've done the playthroughs on the Star Wars starter sets. We've done, so many different starter sets. And they're not really starter sets. They're kind of starter sets, but they basically assume you have some sort of role-playing game experience. And what we need more of is something that for starter sets for people who've never role-played before, because usually that's who's getting the starter sets.
Well, and if they do have it, it's only in the kids' games. Like No Thank You Evil has one.
Right, yeah, for the little kids.
Set,
yeah.
Even.
So basically the only good starter set I have seen, and I'm sure they're out there somewhere, but and I've got a pretty good collection. We do research, right? We do it again. The best one that I have seen was the 1983 Frank Metzer. Okay, the player book is not in here. Look for the player. It was probably right in that stack there. So it's going to look just like this, but it says player.
Okay.
Is the 1983 Frank Metzer Basic Dungeons and Dragons. It was in its own red box, but it had these. It had two booklets in it. Do you not see? It's going to be right where you pulled it out from. If it's been put back, right. Keep going. Just right. Go right to where you were. No, those are supplements. I might have gotten separated because of all the other demos.
That's why I was...
But it shouldn't be very far. It should just, if it's not there, look right behind the Wrath of the Immortals then, see if it's behind that box. Yeah, see if it got squeezed behind there. Okay. There we go. Thank you. I may have to introduce myself. I'm Hawk Robinson, president and founder of RPG Research. Danielle.
Hi, I am eRPG advocate, game master, and treasurer.
And Riley.
Hello, I am a volunteer and help train game masters.
Yeah, you're a player archetype specialist. So he plays all the different types of players like murder hobo, rules lawyer, cheater, etc. to help make life difficult for the game masters, help them do better. All right, so this, versus that. We are going to do the unboxing, so stick around. Just give us a minute here. But this starts out with the player's manual with a choose-your-own adventure, basically type adventure, which slowly adds rules. It doesn't front-end load a bunch of character rules and everything else. It slowly layers them. You do choose-your-own adventure, and it tells you what stat to look up and slowly adds them as you play through a couple of solo adventures. Then, when you're ready to try to GM, after you've gotten the basics of that, and you want to bring some friends together who have never role-played, then it does basically a walkthrough DM adventure, which tells the DM with the boxes of what to read and not read, and what to roll and not roll, walks you through very railroady, but walks through a very beginner adventure with your friends. This is the best I have seen since 1983 that for absolute beginners who have no prior experience. All the other starter sets for D&D, the others have not been like that. They really have not. You have to kind of pre-read, and they don't really help walk you through the same way. All right. Moment of truth. Call of Cthulhu starter set. So, this is Call of Cthulhu starter set. All you need to enjoy horror role-playing. Mike Mason and Friends, Chaosium Incorporated. A world of mystery, horror, and adventure in a box. This starter set contains everything you need to begin playing Call of Cthulhu, the tabletop role-playing game of mystery and horror. Players take on the role of investigators of mysteries, uncovering dark secrets, encountering strange monsters, and thwarting sinister cults. Together, you and your friends create and develop a story in which each of your characters plays a leading role, which could be foiling some dastardly plot or stopping horrors from beyond space and time. Role-playing games are a social pastime. Everyone works together in a team, each playing an investigator character. One player runs the game, the keeper of arcane lore, who referees the rules and presents the story and adventure plots to the other players. Think of it a bit like acting in a drama, but where there isn't a script. Dice and the rules of the game determine the success or failure of your character's actions, all while you are propelled into dramatic and nerve-tingling situations. The emphasis is on having fun. Inside this box, Book 1, Introduction and Alone Against the Flames. A solo introductory adventure teaching you the basics of Call of Cthulhu as you play through the mystery. Now, we did get previously, because that was available, the Alone Against the Flames adventure. We haven't played through it yet, but we do have another copy of it. Book 2, Call of Cthulhu Starter Rules, the basic rules needed for starting play. Book 3, Adventures, 3 starter adventures for your players to explore. Ready-made investigators, 5 ready-to-play game characters. Blank investigator sheets ready for creating your own investigators. Role-playing dice, a set of 6 polyhedral dice for use in the game. Handouts, a set of ready-to-use props. Adventures! This box comes packed with 4 classic adventures for over 10 hours of gameplay. Alone Against the Flames, Paper Chase, Edge of Darkness, Dead Man Stomp. Call of Cthulhu is the definitive mystery and horror role-playing game and has won over 40 awards, including being inducted into the Academy of Adventure Gaming Art and Design Hall of Fame. When you're ready to delve deeper into the game, expand your fun with the 7th edition Call of Cthulhu Keeper Rulebook and Investigator Handbook, which we'll get all that later too. So this is 7th edition, so now we're opening it. And tentacles come flying out. Cthulhu! All right, so good sturdiness to the box. This feels like it'll hold up better than some of the others. All right, some of the others have been thinner, and that one's actually got some pretty good heft to it. We have our dice. We got white ones with one slightly different color. So we have 4, 6, 8, 2 10s, actually 3 10s. So we got 2 of them with the 10s position, and then the 1s position, and then a D20. So you'll notice there's no 12 in that. But that's interesting that it's got the 3 10s. The little handout, what's in this box. We already read the list of what's in the box, so we won't read that again. But then it says below, read me first. So we'll read this first. The books in this starter set are designed to be read in the order presented. And by the way, as we go through we're going to go through this solo adventure together, you and the audience will actually be able to choose what we play. You can actually have a say in what we're playing. So stick around, and if you're a donor, you will be able to, or you can donate on the fly, you'll be able to affect the adventure. You'll actually control what we go with. The books in this starter set are designed to be read in the order presented, so open book 1 first. You'll take part in a starter solo adventure called Alone Against the Flames, in which your character alone must navigate through a strange mystery. As you play through this solo adventure, you will be guided through creating an investigator character. Use one of the blank investigator sheets for this, or you can use any of the ready-made investigators also in this box. The choice is yours. So first question, audience. Do you want to help us make a character, or do you want us to use a pre-gen? Please comment here in the Twitch channel. If you're a donor, your vote will get higher priority, but if we have no donors here, then we'll just take a look at the aggregate. But go ahead and comment here in the Twitch chat room. Do you want us to make a character from scratch or just use one of the pre-gens as we go through the solo adventure with you? Let us know. Once you have completed Alone Against the Flames, you are ready to move on to Book 2, where you'll be presented with the starter rules. Read through Book 2 to build your understanding of Call of Cthulhu before moving on to Book 3. Now, that right there is a little bit different than the Frank Metzer approach. So it sounds like the first part matches the player manual as far as walking you through step by step. But they're asking you to read through everything in the DM section, which is a little different as opposed to this lets you just kind of learn on the fly. But we'll see how it does there as far as how much prep. Interesting. When you feel ready, invite a friend or two to join you in a game. Book 3 contains 3 adventures. Start with Paper Chase, the first adventure in the book, which is designed to be played with 1 or 2 players in addition to yourself. Your players can either create investigator characters from scratch using the guide in Book 2, or more quickly, use the ready-made investigators in the box. The other adventures in Book 3 are designed for 2 or more players, so more of your friends can join in. Each adventure comes with guidance to help you become more familiar with running the game. Soon you and your players will be enjoying the mysteries, thrills, and scares of Call of Cthulhu. Well, so I think it was just because it was a Zoe thing, because look, everybody just died off.
Oh, is there a Zoe thing right now?
Well, it looks like we were, I think, earlier being hosted. Now I think we're not, so. Oh, well. Okay, that's what happened. They were hosting, and now they're live. So we just lost all those folks that were. Oh well, that's what happened. That's what happened. Zoe gets lots of. Zoe's got 83 viewers, which is dropped to 4. Yeah, I know. It just. But I only hang doing it's because they went live.
Okay.
They were hosting, and then they went live. So now everybody that was watching through them, now it's switched over. Oh well. The Chaosium. The Chaosium exists deep beneath the bottom of the lowest underworld. It is the fount of chaos and spews forth our collective unconscious, fantasies and monstrosities alike into our world. Artists, believers, and gamers are all inspired by its relentless dreams. The Chaosium speaks to us. Quote, "We are all us. You must cut the dragon head off yourself. Take it with your left hand and make it part of you. You must slay the dragon and wield its power. Naf Cthulhu Rila Wagab Nagel Fitagan." That's the invocation of Cthulhu, by the way. End quote. So, tentacles? No? Okay. The Chaosium lets us dream the dreams of dead gods and construct the universe out of its essential runes. It lets us travel along the Lightbringer's quest to revive the murdered sun or walk the non-Euclidean pathways of the Ryla's nightmare corpse city. In this mundane and gray world, the Chaosium brings your untamed imagination to life through role-playing games, books, board and card games, comics, and more. Guard yourself with the Elder Sign and fortify yourself with rune magic. It is time to begin your adventure. So that's a whole Chaosium little ad on the other side there. That's okay. So you slide that over, and the other side's more interesting for the artwork. Call of Cthulhu Chronicles, the official Call of Cthulhu interactive fiction game, available on the App Store. So it's only available on iPhone. That's lame. Cthulhu Chronicles brings this. So we're going step by step out of this box, one by one. Brings the terror and fun of Call of Cthulhu to life on your mobile device. It emulates the tabletop experience, giving you choices to make, each one taking your investigator down different paths with differing conclusions. Mystery, intrigue, horror, and madness await your investigator, who can gain insights and lose sanity while charting his or her way through the scenarios. Unlike many RPGs, the focus of Cthulhu Chronicles isn't on leveling up a custom-made character through combat. Instead, players choose between 6 unique investigators, each of whom has their own strengths, weaknesses, and individual storylines. Players are free to switch between investigators at will and explore the world of Arkham from all their perspectives. Cthulhu Chronicles plays in portrait rather than landscape orientation, as seen below, which makes it easier for players to enjoy the game on the go. The first campaign, Investigations in Lovecraft Country, includes 9 scenarios which are currently available. Scenarios are bought with virtual currency, but you can also use free trials, which recharge every day. No need to watch ads to play for free. And so then they've got some examples here. So you can show one side and then flip it and leave it the other side up. All right, so next we have, it looks like character sheets. So we don't, okay. So again, we're asking for the first vote. Do you want us to go through together with you and make a custom investigator, or just use one of the pre-gens that we're going to go through the first adventure, which is a solo adventure, but we'll share and let you make the choices. So quickly decide, do you want to be custom character or use a pre-gen? So here's the new versions of the blank character sheets. They look nice, they're clean. They don't have a bunch of artwork behind the text, which makes it difficult for people with dyslexia and other visual impairments to be able to read. It's a little busy. I wouldn't highly recommend it for dyslexia, but at least they didn't put stuff behind it. And it's, you know, it's nicely stylized. So you can go and show people that. Yeah, no, take your time. And it came with quite a few blanks, which is good. We'll make more photocopies, obviously. And then the pre-gens. And then if nobody votes in the Twitch room, then you guys get to decide.
Come on and vote.
Yep. So decide. Do you want us to use a pre-gen or make a character together? So the pre-gens include, this is 1920s era investigator. We have Jesse Williams, a history student, age 20, female, residence Arkham, birthplace Boston. And let's see. Backstory: youthful and bright-eyed, wears fashionable clothing. We have ideology and beliefs, strong faith in God, having been raised in the church by her mother. Significant people: her mother, Joyce, who she writes to every week. Meaningful locations: her mother's home in Boston, where the best possible food is served. Treasured possessions: her late father's pocket Bible. Traits: risk-taker, likes to be in the middle of the action. Injuries and scars: none. Phobias and manias: none. Arcane tomes, spells, and artifacts: none. Encounters with strange entities: none so far.
We got one vote for pre-gens. Anyone else want to weigh in?
Okay. Gear and possessions: satchel, pencils, and fountain pen. Notepad, pocket Bible, hair clips. Cash and assets: spending level, cash, and assets. We've got some quick reference rules to help with running the game. And then a little section that's new for fellow investigators: have very simple stats. Just says the character and the player, and then you're in the center of all the tentacles. The front of it's basically the same as previous editions of Call of Cthulhu. You have your characteristics with your different ranges. It looks a little bit different with the stat layout. You've got your hit points, whether you have a major wound, dying, or unconscious, whether you're temporarily insane or indefinitely insane, your sanity points. Jesse is starting with 50 sanity points. You have luck on here. Jesse is starting with 55 luck. Magic points 10. Hit points 13. And lots of investigator skills. We won't go through all those right now. And unarmed. So can only do 1d3 plus damage bonus. No damage bonus, no build, and then dodge is 40. So that is Jesse Williams. The next one is Keiko Kane, science student, age 21, female, Arkham, San Francisco's birthplace. I won't read through all the stats unless we like somebody really likes it, but I will do the backstory because that's more interesting than the stats. Personal description: slim physique, below average height, thick dark hair, glasses, and a broad smile. Ideology, beliefs: science, given the time, can explain everything. Doesn't believe in ghosts and wants to find a scientific explanation for such weird happenings. Significant people: her older brother, Hugo, who she loves dearly. Hugo works as a doctor in San Francisco. Meaningful locations: libraries, where she can get lost in a massive book about science. I keep wanting to do, one of our characters in the Sunday Heroes of the Mist was a gnome who was very scientifically minded, and it always goes, science! This is a little catchphrase. Treasured possessions. A silver penknife given to her by her brother. She always carries it as a good luck token. Traits. Adventurous. Likes to be busy and get her hands dirty. And the rest of it's blank. So that is Keiko Kane. Then we have Lois Russo, engineering student, age 19, female also, originally from New York. And personal description: athletic physique, stylish bob of dark brown hair, flapper style dress, ideology beliefs, raised in the Catholic Church, has a healthy respect for the supernatural and can be quite superstitious. Significant people: her father, whom she knows works for the gangster Dutch Schultz in New York. Oh boy. Meaningful locations: New York City and the loving arms of her family, also training on an athletics track where she can focus her mind. Treasured possessions: a switchblade knife, a present from her father who said, "Keep this with you, it'll get you out of hard spots." Traits: hard-nosed, fiery temper, and loves arguing. Never walks under a ladder. Rest is blank. So that is Lois Russo. Then we have Nevada Jones, who basically looks like Indiana Jones. Nevada, Indiana, yeah. Archaeology professor, age 35, male, Arkham, as current residence, birthplace Winnipeg, Canada. It's a Canuck. And what's that?
They named him Nevada.
Yeah. Instead of Indiana. That's kind of funny. I'm surprised they didn't just do Illinois. It's like, next door, really close. But anyway. Right, well, yeah, there's that. Personal description: handsome, but a little rough around the edges, below average height, wears a suit when necessary, but prefers more casual attire. Ideology beliefs: a strong love for history and ancient cultures, wants to make a name for himself by finding lost treasures. Significant people: his father, Frank Jones, whose own discoveries made him famous. Nevada feels overshadowed by his father. This is verbatim Indiana Jones. Treasured possessions: his St. Christopher medallion, which he believes is a good luck charm. Traits: reckless, tends to jump in feet first before thinking, unless they're snakes. All right, doesn't say that, but I just thrown that in. So that's Nevada Jones, aka Indiana. And finally, we have Wentworth Avebury, languages professor, age 58, male, residence Arkham, birthplace New York, but he's got a monocle and a very proper tie, has kind of a snooty look to him, so that is why I'm doing that voice, because that seems appropriate. Personal description: wears a slightly worn suit, average height, a trim mustache, pencil mustache, uses a monocle rather than spectacles when examining text. Ideology and beliefs: a lifelong interest in myth and folklore. He is willing to believe in the reality of the supernatural, but has yet to find any hard evidence. Significant people: his late wife Jane. He thinks there was something she wanted to tell him before she died. Meaningful locations: a quiet woodland space where he can listen to the birds and relax with a good book. Treasured possessions: a small frame containing a photograph of Jane, his late wife. Traits: inquisitive, takes a meticulous approach to investigation. So those are the pre-gens available. So, out of those, what would folks like to play? We'll give you folks there on the Twitch channel first. Jesse Williams, the history student. Keiko Kane, science student. Lois Russo, engineering student. Nevada Jones, archaeology professor. Or Wentworth Avebury, languages professor. Which one should we use for this adventure that we're going to go through with you? We're waiting. I better not do an exact match of the music.
Yeah.
Well, while we're waiting for input on which one you would like, let's look into Book 1, Alone Against the Flames. Written by Mark Mason, Paul Fricker, and Gavin Inglis. Development editing Mike Mason. Additional editing and proofreading Lynn Hardy. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. And the character sheet was made by Dean Englehart. Why is that name familiar? I'm not sure why. Alone Against the Flames was play-tested by Andrew Carey, Halston M. Bernard, and Stephen Pearson. Additional thanks to Writer's Block, Mike Mason, Thomas Finney, and the hard-working faculty at the Miskatonic University podcast. Call of Cthulhu Starter Set 2018 KSM Inc. All rights reserved, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Still waiting for which of the 5 pre-gens you would like to play. If nobody in the audience decides, then we'll have one of the volunteers here decide. Do you hear the call of Cthulhu? The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. We live in a placid island of ignorance in the midst of black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that we should voyage far. H.P. Lovecraft, The Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu is Chaosium's classic role-playing game of mystery and horror in which ordinary people are confronted by the terrifying and alien forces of the Cthulhu mythos. All you need to play Call of Cthulhu for the first time is included in this starter set. It goes through what this set contains. We've already gone through that list. Overview of the game. The aim of playing Call of Cthulhu is to have fun with your friends as you explore and create a story of mystery and horror. One player takes the role of game moderator known as the Keeper of Arcane Lore, or Keeper for short. Their role within the rules is to run the game for the rest of the players, who take the parts of intrepid investigators of the unknown, or just investigators, the heroes of the story, attempting to seek out, understand, and eventually confront the horrors, mysteries, and secrets of the Cthulhu mythos. As you are the person reading this book, that would be me, but read it to you and you get to have an input, we will assume that you are going to take on the role of the Keeper for the first few games you play. The Keeper picks a story to run. These stories are known as adventures or scenarios. You will play through a special solo adventure alone against the flames to introduce the game to you, but you will also find some starter scenarios in Book 3 to play with your friends. A scenario provides the Keeper with the structure of a story to present to the players. The Keeper's role is a little like that of a director making a movie in which the actors don't know how the story will develop. The players are like actors who have the freedom to improvise their own scripts and actions within that movie/game. The investigators need not be anything at all like the people who play them. Indeed, it is often more rewarding and enjoyable for players to create characters entirely unlike themselves, such as tough private eyes, wise-cracking journalists, or learned academics. Most of the play is a verbal exchange. The Keeper sets the scene, describing the environment, the individuals, and encounters to the players. The players tell the Keeper what they intend their investigators to do. The Keeper then tells them whether they can do it, and if not, what happens instead. In play, the game takes the form of a group conversation with many twists and turns and fun along the way. The game rules use dice to determine if an action succeeds or fails when a dramatic conflict presents itself. For example, whether the investigators are able to leap out of the way of a giant statue about to crash down upon their heads. The rules in Book 2 describe how to describe the outcome of such conflicts. Now, here's a little commentary. It starts out okay with not too much artwork in the back of the text, but as I read through, this section here has artwork and it got increasingly harder to read. I don't have any visual, other than just being glasses, but I don't have any significant visual impairment or dyslexia. Somebody with dyslexia, that's going to get almost completely unreadable, and somebody with visual impairment, it will become unreadable. So this is a critique to anybody who's designing or publishing role-playing games. Please stop putting artwork behind the text. You want to put it all around it, great. If it's not too squiggly and busy, then that is okay. The fainter stuff is okay if you put it in the gutters and such. Stop putting it behind the text, or make it super, super faint, because it's making it unreadable for millions of people. Winners and losers. In Call of Cthulhu, there are no winners and losers in the standard competitive sense. Play is cooperative. This is also known as it's a non-zero-sum game. In competitive games, it's a zero-sum game usually. The participants work together to attain a common goal, usually to discover and foil a nefarious plot being perpetrated by the minions of a dark cult or secret society. The opposition that the investigators face can often be an alien or hostile situation controlled by an impartial keeper, not another player. The keeper takes on the roles of all the supporting characters and monsters in the adventure, while the players each just play one role, that of their investigator. Winning in such a situation depends on whether the investigators succeed in their goal, and losing depends on whether is what happens if they fail to achieve it. They may be able to try again later. During the game, investigators may become injured, suffer sanity-shattering experiences, or even die. However, someone has to make a stand against the cosmic horrors of the Cthulhu mythos. And the death of a single investigator matters little if it means repulsing Cthulhu's master plan to enslave the earth. Investigators who survive gain knowledge of horrendous monsters, power from arcane volumes of forgotten lore, and advancement in their skills as they become more experienced. Thus, the player's investigator will continue to progress until their demise or retirement, whichever comes first, often due to sanity. Who joined us in Jitsi? Is that Dan from Brazil, or no? There's somebody there now.
Oh.
Psych. Okay. Well, you tricked me.
It showed up on the photo. I was
Okay.
like, the fellow Jits here. I'm like,
All
okay,
right.
let me give him a
It was probably Dan briefly. All right. He said he was just going to watch through Twitch. So, never played a role-playing game before. That's the assumption here with the starter set. That's what we're evaluating, is how accessible is this. So again, you have a choice of 3 pre-gens. Jessica Williams, the history student, Keiko Kane, the science student, Lois Russo, the engineering student, Nevada Jones, basically Indiana Jones, the archaeology professor, and Wentworth Avebury, languages professor. That's one of the... So you guys can start looking through those, because we're not getting any input from the Twitch channel, so we'll probably end up have you guys decide which one you'd like to play.
Sure.
If you've never played a role-playing game before, you may be wondering what this is all about. Do you want to do the Indiana Jones one? All right. Sorry, Nevada
Who
Jones.
else would we want to be?
Oh, plenty of them.
Yeah.
If you've never played a role-playing game before, you may be wondering what this is all about. To set you on the right track, it may be useful to describe an average session of play. Now, my assumption here is everybody on this channel already knows what a role-playing game is, so I probably don't need to read the example of play. Is that right? If you'd like me to read it, go ahead and post, and I'll go back and read it. Otherwise, we're just going to move on to the section. Of course, that was just an example, which we just didn't read. The number of players, the duration of the session, play, blah, blah, blah. Okay, role-playing dice. I'm only going to read this because it's specific to this game and what's included. And we noticed that there were 3 D10s, so that was interesting. The keeper and players use a set of role-playing dice in the game. These polyhedral dice include percentage dice, D100, a 4-sided die, D4, a 6-sided die, D6, an 8-sided die, D8, and a 20-sided die, D20. Now, when it says D100, unlike an actual D100, if you break out your D100, please, go ahead and show them that on the camera. That's an actual D100, really. The problem with those is they roll forever. I've got a little red one, does the same thing. Basically like a golf ball with 100 different faces.
You would have to blow it up to be like the size of an apple for it not to roll forever.
Yeah, it'd have to be a bowling ball. Or at least a softball or something.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking like a
yeah,
large apple.
that's maybe a grapefruit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a mutant apple. No, I know, but that's because most of the apples in the grocery stores are mutants now. Most apples naturally are much smaller.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's actually D100. When they say D100, they actually mean 2 10-sided dice, one with the tens position, so 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, so 5, 0, 6, 0, 7, 0, and then the ones position, which says, either 0 through 9 or 1 through 10. Which one are these, 0 through 9 or 1 through 10 of those? I'm assuming 0 through 9.
0 through 9.
Yeah. So that you roll the 2 together, and that gives you your percentage result. And interesting in this case, so the dice are white, but it has one extra D10 that is of a different color. What's interesting is that the other 2 are the same color, which is interesting. So we'll have to see why it's a different color. The number after the D is the range of numbers available, 1d8, blah, 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 blah. In the adventure, the text will call for different dice rolls using the terminology above. So if the text says a monster delivered 1d8 damage, then roll the 8-sided die once to determine how much damage actually... Okay, we're all role-playing gamers, so we don't have to go too... Okay, reading the D100 percentage dice. For some people, this is a new thing. Not everybody has used percentile dice in role-playing games.
And I still get confused.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because no one explained it to me. They said, roll this, and I'll tell you what
Interesting.
it says.
Percentage dice usually consist of 2 10-sided dice, which are rolled at the same time. One die, units, is numbered 1 to 0, the other tens being numbered 10 to 00. Both dice are rolled and should be read together. e.g. 30 on the tens die and 0.5 on the units die is read as 35%. A roll of 0, tens die combined with a 0 units die indicates a result of
100.
Yes,
That's
100%.
The one I always get confused
A
on.
roll of 0 on the tens die combined with any other roll on the units die indicates a roll of under
10.
correct. For example, a roll of 0 on the tens die and 3 on the units die is read as
30.
3%. Yep.
I have to see it in my head.
Yep, that's okay. Dice roll variations. Sometimes the dice notation is preceded by a number. It just tells you how many dice, so like 1d6, 2d6, whatever. We don't need to read through all that. Next steps. Now you understand the basic premise of playing Call of Cthulhu, you can take on your first adventure, Alone Against the Flames, a horror story set in the 1920s, where you are the main character and your choices determine the outcome. It is designed to lead you through the basic rules of the game in a gradual and entertaining fashion. Although most such adventures are played with your friends, this one is just for you. Don't worry that there may still be things you don't fully understand yet. The rules are explained as you play through the game. You'll even be shown how to create your own investigator. Before you begin to play, make sure you have Book 2 nearby, as you will need to refer to this while you play. You don't need to read Book 2 before you start playing. Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. You will also require one of the blank investigator sheets from the box. You also need a pencil and some note paper. So that's if we're making a character. We're just going to pick one of the pre-gens. Read on and follow instructions, starting with Section 1. Once you have completed the adventure, perhaps surviving or not, you can then read Book 2. But before then, settle in a comfortable chair and prepare to be alone against the flames. Dun dun dun. Alrighty then. So, we got our Indiana Jones character, Nevada Jones, Nevada Jones, Nevada Jones. You can go put that with the other character sheets. We are not going to write on this. We will keep track by whatever means necessary with a post-it or what have you. Book 2, Introductory Rules, is a small. Let's see, it has.
Quickly make a copy. So you have to read.
Okay. 23 pages. Quick reference chart for half and fifth values. Huh. Okay. So it's just 23 pages in the Book 2 rules. And then Book 3 has Paper Chase and Other Adventures. That one is 79 pages. Although the last 2 pages are just an advertisement. It's annoying when they put advertisements in a book you buy. It's one thing to do it in a magazine, it's another thing to put it in a game. I mean, I know it's a common practice, but... And then we've got a whole little booklet of handouts here with maps and letters and all sorts of good 16 pages of maps and letters. So you want to just go and try to show that on the camera, like lay it out and kind of flip through it a little bit. So we won't be doing the paper chase today.
Oh, that's easy to read.
Yeah. All right. So I have Book 2 handy over here. Alone Against the Flames, a solo introductory adventure. But we are doing this so that you, audience, or the volunteers here, if the audience doesn't want to participate, that's fine, that's your choice. But you have the option to vote for which option to take. So if we have a choice, you know, two or three or more choices, you can go ahead and vote which choice you would like us to take. Even if you just want to sabotage us, that's fine. We can always just start over if we have to. Because there's lots of people who like to be saboteur-type players, like we just demonstrated in our last session with Daniel there. But yeah, so this hopefully you will join in the fun of making the choices here. But it basically starts as a as a solo adventure book or module, similar to the commercial product known as a Choose Your Own Adventure trademark, which is currently involved in a lawsuit with Netflix for over $25 million. Anyway, you can check that out on the RPG Talk Show 2 weeks ago. 1. The sun is high in the sky, a merciless ball of heat. You feel scorched by the time you reach the bus halt in front of Osborne's drugstore. It's a relief to put down your heavy cases and take off your hat for a moment. You fan your face. It has been a long summer here in your hometown, and yet a curiously empty one. You look across the street at the grubby butcher's shop, the grocer's with its faded awning, and the shabby tobacconist. Mistrustful faces glare at you as they pass, eyeing your clothes and luggage. It was your parents' choice to live here, not yours. You were happy down south as a child among Providence's white-walled houses and leafy churchyards. Perhaps this new job in Arkham will supply the change you need. Yet everybody you know in the world lives here. You know nobody in Arkham, not one soul. You ask yourself one last time if you are doing the right thing. Thank you. The answer is here. None of your supposed friends have come to see you off. You are alone. Whatever challenges lie in Arkham, it will be a new life and a brave one. A small gray motor coach approaches and rattles to a stop. You put your hat back on and pick up your cases. Go to 263. So I have to flip all the way from 1 to 263. So jumping pretty much, I think, to the end, just about. That might be the end. Almost. It's almost the end. It's the second to last page. You just die. Everything else is just to fake you out. 263.
That would be Cthulhu.
Yeah. Two young men with sullen expressions alight from the coach. One looks you up and down before heading away. The driver also steps down, glancing at you before crossing the road to visit the tobacconist. When he returns, he is rolling a cigarette between his yellowed fingers. He gives it a final twist and examines you as he reaches for his matchbox. He is a thin man in his 50s, dressed in a stained shirt with the bus company emblem, yet his eyes are sharp in their dark sockets. "Where to?" You show him your ticket for Ossipee. From there, you will connect to Rochester and Portsmouth before the coastal line to Newburyport and finally Arkham. You should be able to afford a rail ticket for at least some of the way, otherwise this will be the first of many long bus trips. Driver scratches the match and lights his cigarette. The end flares as he takes a draw. Then he exhales and gestures to the back of the coach. "Luggage rack's up there." So look at your investigator sheet. At the top, you have spaces for 8 characteristics. Strength, STR, Constitution, CON, Power, POW, POW, Dexterity, Dex, DEX, Appearance, APP, Size, SIZ, Intelligence, INT, and Education, EDU. Now it says to allocate the following values among them that's for making the character. Because it says allocate the following values among them, writing them in the large squares beside each, 40, 50, 50, 50, 60, 60, 70, 80. So that's if you were making a character. We already have done, pre-gen. If you'd like more information about what the characteristics mean, read page 7 of book 2. When you've done that, go to 8. Not 8 in the choices here. So it really is walking you through making a character, which is good. Because that's what I liked about in there, that they did that and such. So, although in the Frank Metzer game they describe each one in the flow of it, but that's okay. The driver smokes and watches as you drag your cases to the back of the motor coach. The rack is set inconveniently high on the vehicle. You get a grip on the heavier case. If your size is 40, go to 23. If your size is higher than this, go to 38. So our size is 40. So we go to 23.
What?
We're not big enough to reach her.
You struggle for a few seconds before the driver comes up beside you and lends a hand, still puffing on a cigarette. "Heavy bags for a small one," he remarks. You judge it best to respond with a simple thanks. Go to 233.
Choose your own adventure.
Yeah, but I'm not sure I understand why it's making us come clear to the end for some of these preset ones. Like, we don't get to make a choice a whole lot yet. It's kind of weird to jump that far back, but okay. The driver flicks his cigarette into the gutter and steps into the motor coach. Its engine coughs into life. You board, grateful that you'll be the only passenger for the initial part of your trip at least. With mixed emotions, you watch from the window as the tired avenues of your old home slip behind you, receding into the distance. For a few minutes, you can still see the church spire over the brow of a low hill. Then the road dips, and it too is gone. Arkham is your new home. You will travel there and make a new start. You will see 2 smaller boxes in the right of each characteristic value. Have each value, this is again for the character generation, rounding down, and write the result in the upper right box. Also divide each value by 5. Okay, so for example, strength goes 60, then 30, then 12. Divide each value by 5, again rounding down, and writing the result in the lower right box. Yeah, we will use these numbers later. If you're using the interactive PDF version of the investigator sheet, oh, so they offer an interactive PDF. Okay, that's good to know. You will see it does all the math for you. Lazy. In the strip below, you will see tracks that record sanity and magic points. Beginning sanity is equal to your original power, and beginning magic points are the same as the value you've just assigned for POW divided by 5. Mark these on the tracks. Then go to 134. Again, we're using a pre-gen, so what is our current POW?
50.
And what is our current sanity starting
10.
out?
Well,
What?
our current sanity is 50.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
sorry, Sandy. I thought you
I'm like, 10! Whoa, we're in trouble!
I thought you were asking.
We won't last one encounter.
The other thing that you were talking about.
Yeah, we'll be babbling in the Arkham Insane Asylum there.
Yeah.
All right, 134. The coach putters through the countryside. At first, the interior is stifling. Your stomach lurches with every bend in the road. However, the driver opens his window, and by switching seats, you find a spot where the breeze hits your face. You soon relax into the journey, observing the quaint little hamlets that the coach serves. A heavy-set woman boards at one settlement and gives you a polite nod. She gets off at the next one. The road rises a little, passing cornfields and orchards. The leaves are turning and the trees are alive with glorious reds and golds. You have just begun to doze when the driver takes a tight bend at speed. So add your size and con together, then divide the total by 10, rounding down. This is the starting value for your hit points. So what do we have for hit points?
9.
So we have 9 hit points. Mark it on your investigator sheet. Your current total may drop, but is unlikely to exceed the starting value. You also have a luck score. Roll 3 6-sided dice. We call this 3d6. Multiply your 3d6 result by 5 to get your beginning luck score, and mark it on your investigator sheet. What do we have for luck?
60. You rolled a 12.
Nice. Now you must make a roll against your dex. Roll 1d100. This means rolling 2 10-sided dice and using one value for the tens and one value for the units, unless one die is clearly a tens die. So go ahead and grab out of the pack. We will use the blue and one of the white ones, and we will use the actual dice that came with the box set.
Well, it doesn't already have that on our sheet.
Probably. What were we rolling for?
We're rolling a dex. We're rolling a dex check here.
Oh, check.
This is a check. This is not stat generation.
You got nails.
Just roll these.
I broke it.
That works too.
No, I didn't actually break the packaging. I broke the seal.
That's fine.
30.
30?
I should not roll.
If you rolled equal to your dex or less, you pass the roll.
Oh.
If you rolled greater than your dex, you failed the roll. So what did we get?
I should keep rolling.
What did we get?
30 out of 70.
30 out of 70. Very well done. You may be tempted to skip such rolls and simply pretend you always pass. But Call of Cthulhu is a game of mystery and horror. The terrible disasters that can befall your character are part of the fun. You will not necessarily have more fun if you pass every roll than you would have if you fail. So that's a good line to use with cheaters. You probably won't have more fun always succeeding. It's actually more fun when it's unpredictable. So if you pass the dex roll, if you didn't pass, if you failed, go to 59. Since we did pass, we're going to 261. So far, we haven't actually had to make any choices that's been decided for us one way or the other. Either just it was decided or from the roll. Okay.
Well, we did
That is the last page, the second to last option. 261. A desperate yell awakens you. You feel yourself slide from the seat as the driver spins the wheel and the motor coach plunges off the road. You grab a hold of the seat in front just in time to prevent a painful fall. The coach stops with a thump. Oh, now you see what has happened. A Fordson tractor has stopped in the road, and your driver has had to swerve to avoid the steel obstacle. He leaps from his seat into the road, unleashing a string of curses at the farmer. You take a moment to catch your breath. Perhaps you should offer assistance. But the driver has already returned. He backs the coach up a little and threads it around the tractor, glaring at the farmer. Go to 71.
Not even a thing.
Yeah.
We're going.
Yeah.
We're going places.
It's just introducing you to the mechanics a little bit at a time, which is fine. That's what we were talking about. 71. You resume your journey. The driver takes the curves with more caution than before. He glances over his shoulder at you a couple of times. Sorry about before, he says. That fellow was dumber than a hog. I'm Silas. What's your name? What's your name?
Matt.
No bad.
The accident was at least as much Silas's fault as the farmer's, but it doesn't seem shrewd to antagonize the man while he's driving you through the middle of nowhere. Make up a name for your character and record it on your investigator sheet. You may add your age. For the purposes of this adventure, your character should probably be aged between 23 and 36. How old is Nevada?
35.
Jones. 35, so just within the upper limits. The coach turns onto a narrow road which weaves uphill through woodland. Silas becomes chatty. Going to Arkham, eh? Can't say I ever heard of the place. Went to Boston once. Didn't like it. Too much hustle and bustle. You have family there? A special someone waiting? The afternoon is wearing on. You see no harm in confiding in Silas about your new life. So what's it say in there in the back? If you look at the back, what's it say about family, why you're going, what have you? So read it out loud for those who may be new to, or I will.
I know, we're looking for
Okay.
a reason.
That's okay. Personal description: handsome but a little rough around the edges, below average height, wears a suit when necessary but prefers more casual attire. Ideology, beliefs, a strong love of history and ancient cultures, wants to make a name for himself by finding lost treasures. Significant people: his father, Frank Jones, whose own discoveries made him famous. Nevada feels overshadowed by his father. Meaningful locations: a bar where strong drinks are sold and where he can forget his troubles. You're right, he doesn't seem to have any family, unlike some of the others who do have family.
Mm-hmm.
None of them are here. So, anyway, so you jab around a little bit what you like to do and say that you're coming for a job. A job, eh? What's your line? Choose an occupation for your character from the following options. If you're an antiquarian, go to 102. If you're a doctor of medicine, go to 226. If you're a journalist, go to 239. If you're a private investigator, go to 249. If you're a professor, go to 265. And we are a professor of archaeology, so 265. Oh, there was one more page, or two more pages of options, okay. You explain you are joining the faculty at the renowned Miskatonic University. It's only a junior position with teaching and tutoring duties, but the institution is well regarded. Who knows where the appointment might lead? A symposium, a visiting lectureship, even one of its world-spanning expeditions. Silas wrinkles his nose. I had enough of book learning when I was a young'un. Still, I suppose it's well enough for those who like it. Your credit rating skill is 30%? Is it just automatic? Where's credit? So it's under skills, investigator skills, credit rating.
Yeah, ours is 40.
Huh. So on here it says your credit rating skills 30%, your occupation skills are library use, other language, specify one, own language. Oh, so these are all different skills. Then you can assign a bunch to 70, 60, 60, 50, 50, 50, 40, 40. Ignore any starting value already mentioned in the investigator sheet, then go to 128. So again, that's for making a character, a little bit different than ours, which is interesting that would have that much of discrepancy there, but I guess that's fine. And
Well, so wait, what did it say? It's credit rating?
30.
Well, I think that this character put one of the 40s in the credit rating.
Could be.
Is that what-
Well, but it says your credit rating skill is 30, period. In
yeah,
here.
but then didn't it say that...
Okay, your occupational skills are library use, other language, specify one, because this is a professor, own language, and psychology. You may also pick 4 other skills, not Cthulhu Mythos, as relevant academic or personal skills. Allocate the following values among these occupation skills, writing them in the large square beside each box. 70, 60, 60, 50, 50, 50, 40, 40. Ignore any starting value already mentioned on the investigator sheet. So,
ignored the 30 and just put 40.
I guess so. Which would be a whole loss of a stat, of a skill, which would be strange. Alright, jump to 128. You realize Silas hasn't made a stop since the incident with the tractor. The motor coach winds its way uphill. However, your thoughts are interrupted as the road crests a ridge, and you are treated to a magnificent view of the vista below. A creek snakes through the valley, breaking the rich autumn palette of the tree line. In the distance, the white mountains rise into hazy cloud. There is no settlement, not even a cabin, as far as the eye can see. Birds drift through the treetops, and you can just make out what might be 2 white-tailed deer lingering by the water. Perhaps you are making a mistake by moving to the city. Could you survive on your own in this lush wilderness? You have a base ability in most skills listed in brackets after the skill name on the investigator sheet. For instance, you have 20% in climb and a base dodge equal to half your dex. So yeah, you have, in parentheses it says 20% in climb, and then a base dodge equal to half your dex. Your dex is 70, so 35 is your base dodge. So we look over at dodge, and there it is, 35. Choose 4 skills which are not your occupation skills nor Cthulhu Mythos. These are your personal interest skills. Boost each of these by 20 points. At this point, you may like to calculate 1/2 and 1/5 values for each skill in just the same way you did for your characteristics, page 23 on book 2. Remember to round down. If you are bored of calculations, you can leave the math until it becomes necessary. Or, if you're using the interactive PDF version of the investigator sheet, you'll see that it does all the math for you, lazy. Now go to 144.
Does it say lazy in there?
I keep saying that. That's my interjection.
And I was like,
That's not the book. No, that's me. It's all me. All right. As far as those little snarky comments. 144. The motor. I know. The motor coach rattles on through the hills, and Silas lapses into silence. The sky darkens behind you, pinks tinting the clouds as the sun descends. Finally, a welcome sight comes into view, a settlement on the crest of a hill. This doesn't look like the pictures you've seen on Ossipee, but perhaps you can persuade Silas to stop while you stretch your legs. Minutes later, a harsh stuttering from the engine interrupts your reverie. Silas frowns and rattles the gear stick. The motor coach falters in its ascent. Silas utters a curse you don't recognize and grinds his teeth, struggling at the wheel. You seem to inch up the hill until you reach the first buildings, low dwellings, and constructed from a rough red stone. Silas wrestles the coach into a small bay off the road. He scrambles from his seat and makes for the engine compartment. You must now choose to make a roll against Drive Auto or Psychology. If you choose Drive Auto, you need to roll equal to or less than the skill value. What's your Drive Auto skill?
20.
Okay. If you choose Psychology, you need a hard success. This is a roll equal to or less than half the skill value, the number in the upper right-hand corner. You may attempt only one skill roll. So your psychology?
If we're doing half of that, it's 20.
20 is what? So it's 40 base, but 20 is half of it, yes. So what do you want to do? Audience, you're welcome to vote. If you don't have a input, then in a moment we will let our volunteers here decide instead.
Do we count as one of the viewers? Just wondering.
You count as one of the volunteers
No, I'm
here.
talking about on the count.
No,
Okay.
no. But yeah, that's.
Let's get down a little bit.
Oh yeah, just a little bit. That's because everybody's gone back over to watching Zoe stuff. All right, and I don't see anything coming in here. I don't see anything. Oh, why is that not loading? Come on, Twitter. Tweet, tweet, tweedly tweet, 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 tweedly tweet. Of course, it logged me out. So, if anybody has a vote, vote now. Let's see if. That's why I didn't save, because I tabbed away. Oh well. Alright. Activity. And. Nope, nothing new, other than yesterday from PayPal Giving Fund. Okay. Alright, no input. So, what would you guys like to do? Do you want to roll against Drive Auto or Psychology?
I want to know in psychology, like why we're going to psychology.
It doesn't say, it just says pick one.
Okay.
I don't know if we'll get 20. It's your
Well,
turn to
they're
roll.
both 20s.
They're both 20s.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Yep, you just got to pick one
Do
and then
that
roll.
one or the small one.
Yeah, but you don't roll first. You have to pick first and then roll.
Well,
You're curious? Let's do
we're going to do
psychology.
psychology.
All right, roll against Psychology.
Okay, no.
What'd you get?
83.
Out of 20, that would be a fail. So it says if you roll success against Drive Auto, go to 174. If you roll a hard success against Psychology, go to 162. If you fail your roll, go to 194.
It doesn't even tell us what we did psychology.
Well, it would probably tell us in the result. We don't get to find out. And we may just die right
Read
here.
every single page.
We could just die right here for all we know.
Oh, then.
We're rolling off the cliff. Silas opens the engine compartment Silas opens the engine compartment open and sticks his head inside. The hot metal pops and sizzles. He pokes at various components, then withdraws and wipes his brow, smearing it with a dark grease. I ain't sure what's wrong. Might be the oil pressure. Might be something knocked off kilter when we took that spill. Can't do much until the engine cools neither. And with the light failing, I reckon we'll be here through the night. He wipes his hand on a rag. The shadows from your surroundings are already long, and the air is chilly. You feel stiff from the journey, and a night in the rickety coach sounds unappealing. Silas sees your dismay. This here's Emberhead, miles from any place. I only come through twice a week, but the folks here are good people. May Ledbetter keeps a spare room. She'll look after you. Up that alley, turn right, first house on the left. He scratches his cheek, looks again in the engine compartment, and spits on the ground. Meet me back here at 8 in the morning, and we'll see how's we stand. So, to look for May Ledbetter's house, go to 267. To ask Silas where he will spend the night, go to 251. To challenge Silas about the breakdown, go to 257. So, you want to go to the house, ask him where he's spending the night, or challenge him about the breakdown. Again, audience, you are welcome to make the decision for us. We give you first dibs on the choice, especially if you're a donor or Patreon supporter. But failing that, then we'll have one of the volunteers make the decision. This way it's not using the probably copyrighted music from that show, that game show.
Instead, you're really close to Scooby-Doo.
No. I was doing the... Anyway.
They use it in Scooby-Doo.
That was not Scooby-Doo. Yeah, I mean, I could always just compose on the fly, be the musician and stuff, but I could play that harpsichord piece I did for House on Haunted Hill and such for that session. Okay, I guess it's up to you guys. Nothing in the nothing from the peanut gallery. So, what do you guys? What would you like to do?
I think we're going to
House.
where he's staying.
Where he's going to spend the night? Oh, that sounds like a nice thing. That sounds considerate. Or a busybody. So we jump. So if we look for Mary Ledbetter's house, we go 267. If we ask Silas where he'll spend the night, we go 251. If we challenge Silas about the breakdown, we go 257. We're going to 251. You ask about Silas's plans. He gives the engine a sour glance before answering. I've got acquaintances here in the village. Reckon one of 'em owes me a favor. Enough for bed and breakfast in any case. He stares at his grubby hands. Probably won't stretch to a hot bath. You don't seem to have a lot of options. You fetch your cases from the back of the motor coach. The last thing you need is for all your worldly possessions to disappear into some stranger's hovel overnight. Go to 267. $267. You drag your cases between the sullen buildings. You feel surprisingly weary, considering you've spent all day sitting down. Silas's directions lead you to a modest dwelling with a slate roof. A nameplate reads Ledbetter, and underneath a sign in neat copper plate reads Lodging Room. The lane around you is gloomy, but a lamp flickers in the window. A breeze chills your face. You're not about to begin your new life by sleeping in the street. You rap on the weather-beaten door. Go to number 4. Number 4. After a moment, you hear footsteps inside the house. A bolt is drawn back and the wooden door swings open. A figure with loose curls and a rough-looking house dress peers at you. Her gaze takes in your traveling suit and your cases. Her voice has a slight Irish note. Hello. Should I take it as you're looking for a room for the night? You inquire as to her rates, suppressing a grimace. As far as you've seen, the village does not offer you many alternatives. Oh, you'll find them very reasonable, she says. You look tired. I'm May. Come inside, and we'll take you over a cup of tea. We'll talk over a cup of tea. The Ledbetter house feels cramped, with a low ceiling and simple fittings. But it is well kept, and a cheerful fire crackles in the grate. The aroma of the tea is soothing, and the cup warms your fingers. Have you come to Emberhead for the festival? Asks May. To explain what happened with Silas in the coach, go to 14. To ask about the festival, go to 21. So, which is it, audience? Do you want to explain what happened, or go ask about the festival? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, it gives me time for them to have responded anyway. So, anyway, what would you guys like to do? Talk about what happened with Silas, or talk about the festival?
Let's go with the festival.
Ask about the festival. All right, go to 21. 21. Well, now, I suppose the festival is about the only reason folks come to Emberhead. I thought you had maybe come to study it or take photographs. Well, it's not tomorrow night, but the night after. I suppose it looks very strange to a passerby. May tops up your tea. The spout chinks against your cup. We've got the beacon, you see. One night every year there's a torchlit procession, and we light the beacon on the cliffs. You've never seen the like of it. They say it keeps the spirit of the village alive for another year. It's a celebration. A celebration. She trails off for a moment and blinks. But you didn't come here to listen to me blather, and you must be hungry. I can rustle you up a bit of stew. How would that be? You ask again about her rates, and May names a price so low you accept it without hesitation. The room is small but comfortable, and the stew dark and hearty. After dinner you have a couple of hours before your usual bedtime. Talk to May some more, go to 31. Walk around and get your bearings, go to 75. Turn in for an early night, go to 63. So audience, if you want to choose, do you want to talk to May some more? Do you want to walk around and get your bearings? Or do you want to turn in early for the night? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, guys, what would you like to do?
Let's get our bearings.
Go walk around and get your bearings? We'll jump to 75. What could possibly go wrong? Another one of his great little phrases. All right, number 75. May's brow creases when you announce your intention to take a stroll. Mind how you go, she says. Emberhead's surrounded by cliffs, and we don't have your fancy street lamps here. Take the lantern and watch your step. Outside, you see what she means. The sky is overcast, and only a few glimmers of moonlight peek from the clouds. Without the heavy lantern, you would be walking in near total darkness. You cannot hope to get an overview of the village tonight. May's street is a narrow passage hemmed in by squat, dark dwellings. At the end, however, it opens up. A wide thoroughfare leads off to your right. A crude sign names it Silbury Street. To the left, a few yards away, your light picks out the crooked posts of a simple fence, and beyond that the ground drops away into darkness. You take a couple of steps closer, but you can see nothing. Air from below cools your face. Then some instinct makes you look around. Go to 86.
Maybe they're building suspense with us going all over.
Building suspense in Cthulhu? That never happens. 86. An ink-black figure stands in the road about 20 yards behind you. It stares at you. You form the sudden impression that it will run at you and throw you over the cliff edge. This is unsettling. Seeing it has been spotted, the figure slips down an alley. To return to the safety of the Ledbetter house, go to 100. To confront the dark figure, go to 121. Audience, if you would like to make a selection, go ahead and type that in the Twitch channel. If you would like to go back to the safety of the Ledbetter house, or if you would like to confront the dark figure, please let us know here shortly. Return to the safety of Ledbetter house, or confront the dark figure. All right, no response from the audience. So our volunteers here, which would you prefer?
Safety?
Yeah.
Safety. All right, safety it is. Not so adventurous after all, huh?
No, I'm just a humble professor.
Read the traits on the backside.
Yeah.
Dang it.
What does traits say?
We should do the other one.
What do traits say?
Reckless. Tends to jump in feet first before thinking.
So what would you like to do?
Sounds like going to safety places. Great idea. No, we're gonna have to go after them, man.
Alrighty then. I have to jump back because I'd already jumped ahead. I don't remember what we were at.
Oh boy.
Well, short-term memory loss there, huh?
Someone in the audience, do you know which number we were at?
I guess we're doing 100 after all because we already committed to it. You go against your normal traits and go for safety. Number 100. You flee back down the narrow street, the lantern swinging in your grasp. You reach the door and pound it urgently. May is surprised to see you so soon. The air up here can tire you out if you're not used to it, she says. You glance back once before you close the door. The dark figure is standing against the wall at the end of the street, still staring at you. Or is it? The murk may be deceiving your eyes. You slide the heavy bolt into place. May has settled back into her chair, but now she blinks and yawns. I believe I'll turn in. When would you like your breakfast? Go to 63. Well, you're alive for another page, so maybe that was a good one. Maybe the fates decided. Number 63. As May stands, you hear a clunk behind you. You look over your shoulder, but all you can see is a wooden door securely closed. May tuts. The young lady of the house. She'll have been listening to us. Ruth! Come and greet our guest. There's a short pause, then the door creaks open. 2 wide eyes peer at you from the gap between tousled hair and a rough nightgown. What do you say? The eyes blink. Pleased to meet you. Now get back to bed. The door closes again. My daughter Ruth, 10 years this summer. She's a delight and a torment all in one. Don't worry, she sleeps in with me. She'll not disturb you. Good night now. You retire to your room. It is a little chilly, but you are too tired to worry about lighting the fire. The sheets are clean and the bed soon warms up. The silence outside is strange after living in a town for so long, but you soon drop off. Now go to 154. You dream of fire in the grate. Number 154. You dream of fire in the grate, coruscating colors shimmering through the dancing tongues of flame. At first they are tiny, almost microscopic, but they grow and grow until a kaleidoscope inferno spills from the fireplace, spreading across the floor, up the sheets. You wake with a start. Daylight glints through the curtains. You get up and examine the grate. Blinking the sleep from your eyes, it's quite cold. If you have taken any damage, you may heal 1 hit point back for your night's sleep. Did we take any damage? No, because your dex check worked. Now, so we get to heal a hit point for sleep. That's good to know. Go to 166. Number 166. May seems to have no running water, but has supplied some in a ceramic jug. You freshen up at the washstand and go in. She cooks a hearty breakfast and leaves you in peace to eat. At about 7:30, you are paid up, packed, and ready to go. You bid May goodbye, and she wishes you the best for your new career in Arkham. If you succeeded at a skill roll last night and wish to investigate the results further, go to 178. Otherwise, go to 192. You didn't succeed at anything, so go to 192. Clearly missed an opportunity there.
Well, 2.
Yeah. Number 192. You're already tired. What? Okay, yeah. Number 192. You're already tired of your heavy bags. Hopefully Silas has repaired the motor coach and you can resume your long journey. A sourpuss he might be, but the old driver seemed to understand his vehicle well enough. You pause to check your watch, still 20 minutes early, and round the final corner. The motor coach is gone. You put your bags down and search the area, trekking up and down slopes and around corners. At the edge of the village, you trace the long road back as it winds across the hills. 8 o'clock comes and goes. There is no coach to be seen. A passing villager notices your bags. Looking for the boss? I heard him take off at first light. He's due back in 3 or 4 days. If you need a place to stay, May Ledbetter rents a room. The man raises his hat to you and strolls on into the village. You curse Silas under your breath. Perhaps he went for parts, but you wonder if the old goat has stranded you here on purpose. Go to 218. Needs a little more options for choices, to introduce a little bit more. Number 218. May is doing laundry and looks surprised to see you again. Forgot something. When you explain the situation, she offers to store your bags while you try to arrange alternative transport. You are grateful to relinquish the load. Nobody here has anything like a car. She strokes her chin and narrows her eyes. Maybe you could find somebody with a horse and a cart for your bags. I could ask around later. Try Mr. Winters at the village hall. He'll know if anyone will. Or ask among the artisans. Their workshops are first left on Silbury Street. She reaches over and squeezes your wrist. Don't worry. I won't see you sleeping in the street, money or no money. You thank May and turn to face the village. Go to 6. The What's that?
Stevie, on the track.
Oh, right. Defense bonus or damage bonus? Damage bonus, yeah.
Right.
Number 6. You wander the streets of Emberhead without any particular destination in mind. The village is built on a relatively flat upland with splendid views. To the north, the hazy tips of the White Mountains reach for the heavens. To the south, the sparkling waters of Lake Winnipesaukee touch the horizon. The village itself takes less than 5 minutes to cross from edge to edge. You arrived on the winding road to the west. The only other road leads to the south, following a lower ridge of land as it turns east. In the southwest of the village, an open grassy space borders a ruined church, its graveyard cresting the cliffs. To the northeast, the 3 main thoroughfares meet at a raised black metal structure. It looms stark against the blue sky. And there's a picture of it. Maybe we can see that. See if you can give them a little bit of... You may now, you have quite a few choices here. So again, audience, if you'd like to make a choice, please, as I read it, quickly input your choice. Sound like one of those game shows now. Quickly input your choice. Ask about transport at the local general store, go to 16. Seek out the village hall, go to 84. Walk down to the lower level and check out the eastern road, go to 115. Examine the large metal structure, go to 57. Explore the church, go to 34. Look for local people with their own transport needs, go to 96. So again, choices are ask about transport at the general store, seek out the village hall, walk down to the lower level and check out the eastern road, examine the large metal structure, explore the church, or look for local people with their own transport needs. What would you like to do, volunteers?
What's right in front of us?
Was it the structure? Or was it the church? My brain's not following.
Nothing is directly in front of you. These are all the different choices that you get to make at this stage.
What were you thinking?
Either the structure of the church.
I was thinking the structure.
Can you go to the structure? You examine the large metal structure. Go to number 57. Number 57. You walk up the approach, the most central of the village's major streets. It points directly at the odd metal structure. As you emerge from the shade of the nearby buildings, you are greeted by a magnificent panorama spread from the north to the southeast. The last colors of fall tint the hills in a sleepy gold. The structure, by contrast, is made from uncompromising iron singed black. It supports an immense curved platform at the level of your head. Further struts snake up to a central point. It looks like they may have been some kind of sculpture at one time, but are now twisted and melted beyond recognition. An older gentleman passes, looking up at you with rheumy eyes. "Are you here for the festival?" he asks. "That's the beacon. When they light it, night after next, you'll be able to see it 10 miles away." He gives a little nod of satisfaction, then moves on, leaning on his walking stick. Now you notice bundles of wood, tied and stacked against the buildings nearby. Perhaps this festival would be an interesting diversion. But you really must head to Arkham as soon as possible. Make a spot hidden roll. If you succeed, go to 69, otherwise go to 25. Spot hidden. So what is your current spot hidden skill?
50.
50. All right. So go ahead and roll percentile. What'd you get?
85.
85. So that would be a fail. So we'll go to page number 25.
I like that roll better.
I'm not really mad.
Number 25. You're beginning to get your bearings in Emberhead. Would you like to explore some more? So we get a bunch of choices again. You can choose another option from those below. Do not repeat a previous choice, because then you just go in a loop. Once you have tried 4 options, or before that, if you are ready to move on, go to 3. Okay, so keep that in mind. If we choose 4 options, or if you're ready to move on, go to 3. Okay, so ask about transport at local general store, seek out the village hall, walk down the lower level and check out the eastern road. You've already examined the large amount structure. Explore the church, or look for local people with their own transport needs.
Transport or church?
You want to go to the church last time, we can do that.
Okay.
Church. Explore the church, go to number 34. Number 34. You cross the street towards the church. As you glance to your left, your gaze alights on the large metal structure. Something bothers you about its positioning. You back up and look again. Yes, Emberhead's central thoroughfare points directly at the structure. This seems too precise to be a coincidence. You press on and draw into the shadow of the church. The building is in a sorry state. The top of the steeple is missing, a ragged gash of splintered boards making its absence, and the floors beneath marking its absence. And the floors beneath it have collapsed. It appears to have torn through the roof of the main building as it fell. Only the back half is still intact. The white paint which once covered the church has yellowed and peeled. It seems safe enough to explore the rear section. Old pews are stacked against the wall, choked with mildew. Most of the windows are broken. You guess this church has been disused for about 20 years. There's little more to interest you. Make a ride roll. You may have a bonus die. Roll the 10's percentage die twice and take the lower result.
That's what we do.
If you succeed, go to 46, otherwise go to 25. So why do we have a bonus die? Interesting. Roll the 10's percentage die twice and take the lower result.
Okay, we didn't do it. 16 out of 5.
Okay, and what was your
Would that
ride?
be 16?
5.
You have a 5 ride? we have a 5 ride. Wow, that's rough. Okay, otherwise go to 25. Well, we're right back where we started with 25, aren't we?
Yeah.
Okay. So now you get to make your choices again. Ask about transport at the local general store. Seek out the village hall. I'm reading the ones that you haven't done so far. Look for local people with their own transport needs. Or walk down to the lower level and check out the eastern road.
Transport? Transport. The first transport. Yeah.
The general store?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Ask about the transport at the local general store. Go to number 16. Again, audience members, you're welcome to make choices if you would like.
This one we can keep rotating.
Well, we're
maybe.
using them up here. Number 16. The general store is on a corner beside the main road, just before it plunges to the south. The shopkeeper is a brisk, immense lady with a starched apron and strong shoulders. She looks hard at your unfamiliar face. Transport? There's a motor coach comes through twice a week. Missed it? Truck brings in my supplies every second Tuesday, but he's not due until next week. She shrugs. It seems Emberhead is content to keep its distance from the outside world. You have enough money to buy 1 or 2 inexpensive everyday items here. Note them down on your investigator sheet. Now remember, the year is 1927. The shop stocks no weapons except a dusty hunting knife, which you may purchase if you want. You guys want to purchase anything? You do currently have a handgun, as far as weapons go. As far as equipment, you have travel gear and satchel, 38 handgun and ammo, pencils and notepad, hair comb, and St. Christopher medallion.
Do we need anything else?
I don't got a hair comb. That seems pretty.
Good to go? Okay.
Also wanted soap.
So we go back to 25 again. So, Do you want to seek out the village hall, walk down to the lower level and check out the eastern road, or look for local people with their own transport needs? This is the last time you get to do this. The next time we'll have to go to 3. This will be our 4th time.
I would want to walk down the road or look for local transport.
I think that the eastern road might be our best.
Okay, walk down to the lower level and check out the eastern road. Mm-hmm. Go to number 115. How are you guys liking this process? As far as
I want to
doing
play
this?
through it on my own.
Yeah.
I like choose your own adventures.
Sure. But how are you feeling about doing this cooperatively and such?
Oh, I like it.
Okay. The air is fresh, and the walk down to the lower ridge invigorating. You notice cultivated fields stretching through the lowlands around Emberhead, and among the crops some livestock, but no horses. Are you going to have to make your onward journey on foot? Well, this is number 115. Further down, the road skirts the edge of the ridge and descends. There are a few scattered hovels here with signs of habitation. They are set a substantial distance apart. As you examine them, a door opens and an older man steps out. He wears a bedraggled suit, but carries a piece of cloth which he tosses over his head like a hood. As he does this, he sees you and freezes. Make a luck roll. If you succeed, turn to 127. If you fail, turn to 135. So your luck ability is 60.
Okay. Low.
Low you go.
33.
Out of 60? Mm-hmm. All right. So we succeeded, so we go to 127. (127) The man looks up at the village, scanning the cliff tops. You get a brief flash of his face. There is something unsettling about it. Then he turns to walk away from the road, but as he does, he raises a hand and slowly beckons to you. If you follow the strange man, turn to 142. If this seems unwise, turn to 160. So, again, according to your backstory, your trait is reckless, tends to jump in feet first before thinking. What do you do? Follow. So we're following the strange man, turning to 142.
How do we lose
Life?
luck?
I don't know.
Oh yeah,
I
that
don't
would
know.
make sense.
I don't remember. Let me put it that way. All right. 144. No, 142. You follow the man around the outcrop. He glances up, then steps between two rocks and vanishes. Closer inspection reveals a narrow channel leading into the cliff. There is just enough light to see a small natural chamber within. You will be uncomfortably close to this man if you go inside. To follow him in, turn to 191. To keep your distance, turn to 160. Okay, audience, what do you want to do? You going to go in and follow him? This character is known to be reckless and jump in feet first before thinking, or would you rather be cautious and keep your distance? No answer from the audience. We'll turn to our intrepid volunteers. What would you like to do? 191 it is. Going to follow.
We didn't do the other one, so he did this one.
Yeah, got to make up for it. Yeah. 191. With wary steps, you squeeze between rocky outcrops and enter the concealed chamber, almost banging your head on the low ceiling. The man settles back against the wall and watches until you draw close. Then he slides back his hood. Make a sanity roll. If you fail, lose 1 sanity, then go to 199.
I'll be a 50. I believe. No, I don't.
What'd you get?
66.
Minus 1 sanity.
Whoa.
Mark that on here.
Nick, you got the...
I'll let you track it.
Okay.
So is that the printed one?
That's
Yeah.
the copied one, yeah.
Or do you want this one?
Yeah. Yeah, you guys use that one. Mark
And
that.
we can see over it.
There you go.
Yeah.
And so after losing his sanity, you go to 199. There is, I believe, a photo. If I saw this one earlier. Maybe not. Nope. Some of the man's face remains. A strip from the side of his jaw to his right eye socket is healthy and pale if aged. But the left side is consumed by angry scar tissue. One eye droops, hooded by melted flesh. Child safety warning. And the nostril on that side is pulled open to leave a gaping hole. The disfigured man studies your reaction with his one good eye. Name's Arbogast. Willard Arbogast. Guess I don't need to ask what brings you to Emberhead. If you claim to have come for the festival, go to 206. If you admit that Silas has stranded you here, go to 214. Which do you want to do? Audience, would you like to make a choice?
Bueller.
Beulah.
Bueller.
I thought I saw a picture in here at some point. I'm surprised they don't have that with the reveal. Pretty sure I saw a picture of this guy that was rather unpleasant, rather unsavory. Indeed. What is that? Will we wait for our audience? No, no audience.
I think so.
So I think it's, I'm not positive, but I think it's this guy. That's why he lost his hand. Pretty hideous.
In a campaign, I'd be afraid, but in normal life, I'd be like, oh. Oh.
Alright, so which is it going to be? Festival or admit that Silas stranded you?
Stranded.
Stranded? Alright, 214. That swollen mouth gives a little twist downwards. Son of a devil has rat's blood. His fingers tighten into a fist. Go to 221.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
Arbogast fixes you with a lopsided yet intent stare. You seek me out, eh? He looks up at the cave ceiling. Which one of them told you about me? Never mind, it don't matter. Truth is, they fear what I know. They never come at me direct. Don't want to end up like old Arbogast. The high-pitched sound is all the more grotesque coming from those bloated lips. Then abruptly his gaze turns to iron. Emberhead died 40 years ago, shattered by flame, consumed by the stars themselves. The ancient hill was cleansed by inferno, and from the blackened ground came new life as the way of all things. The Abenaki knew. Arbogast wipes his nose on his sleeve. Except none of that happened. The flames were turned away. The necessary death postponed a year, and a year again. And now those up there, stabs a scrawny finger at the ceiling, think themselves saviors of the village. Think they can defy the great old ones. Yeah, Cthulhu! He shakes his head. With strange eons, with their lives matter less than the blink of an eye. A fierce intelligence burns in his gaze, but you suspect Arbogast may be quite insane. Should his mood change, it would not be difficult for him to seize one of those loose rocks and crack your skull with it. To ask Arbogast about the Abenaki, turn to 227. To ask him about the Great Old Ones, turn to 237. To ask him about the villagers, turn to 245. To leave while you still can, go to 253. So, you want to ask about Abenaki, ask about Great Old Ones, ask about the villages, or flee?
That's what I was thinking.
First one?
Even or odd?
Even.
Second one.
Second one. All right, ask about the Great Old Ones. Turn to 237.
What?
I don't like making choices.
Number 237. A smile of sickly rapture comes over Arbogast's scarred features. The great old ones, the Windwalker, Cthulhu, the crawling chaos, like the rest of them spread like gnats upon the earth. You think your actions matter, yes? Your existence matters? He shakes his head. We are the dust that shifts in the breeze, the motes that drift in the last rays of sun. You are nothing, we are nothing. He gathers himself into silence. Just when you think the sermon is over, he stirs. Here, you are closest to the living flame, not that belching green column beloved of Kingsport. I mean it, which preceded all life on earth. It, which lit the void while our world was formed. It has infinite fuel, infinite patience. It will consume all. Arbogast runs a hand through his hair. A wide strip is missing on the left side, displaced by scar tissue. He climbs to his feet. You may permanently add 2 points to your Cthulhu Mythos skill. Yep. And then we go to number 259.
A little more. A little more.
Yep. A smidgen.
Then we don't have to roll double zeros to know something.
That's a 100, which is actually
Yeah,
a critical failure.
yeah.
We literally can't get anything.
Yeah. Number 259. Arbogast pauses in the shadows. There's something about you. Something the previous ones never had. Perhaps you can make it through. If you want to hear more, meet me again after dark, 9 o'clock. The graveyard on the other side. He lifts a gnarled finger. Don't be followed, else I won't be there. This ain't the time of year for a showdown. Arbogast wipes his nose on his sleeve again. Go now. Their eyes are on me. And stranger, don't try to run. You'll never make it. You emerge into the sunlight, blinking and more than a little shaken. You have discovered a secret. Later tonight, the text will offer you a chance to follow up on a previous appointment. At that point, if you want to meet with Arbogast again, add 20 to your current entry number and go to that new entry.
Okay, I'll write a sticky note.
Okay.
So,
Later tonight, the text will offer you a chance to follow up on a previous appointment. Okay. You get to add 20 to your current entry number and go to that new entry. For now, go to 160.
I'm sure that there would have been another one.
Yeah. Number 160. You turn back to the road and your core business, getting out of Emberhead and onwards to Ossipee. The ridge gives you a good viewpoint from which you can see the course of the road. It winds with the hills, disappearing into woodland for a while before emerging further on. You lose sight of it somewhere towards a second patch of woodland. By your best estimation, that is at least 6 or 7 miles distant. You see no other settlements or traffic. It may be worth taking a chance and walking. The weather is still mild, but you will need supplies before you attempt it. Go to 25. Alright, so this is past our 4th time going to 25, so that means we automatically go to 3. Number 3. Your morning exertions have left you hungry. You roam the streets of Emberhead looking for sustenance. There is nothing resembling the busy cafes of your hometown or anything that might be called a restaurant. It is beginning to look like you will have to get supplies from the general store when May Ledbetter comes down the street with a girl trailing in her wake. This must be Ruth. As she notices you, she races past her mother and approaches you with a smile. This is a different Ruth from the shy creature of last night. As she reaches you, she stops and stretches her arms up in celebration. She looks up into your eyes, Abruptly, the smile drops from her face, and she looks several years older. "Get out before the festival," she hisses. "Get out!" She blinks hard, then scuttles back towards her mother. May approaches, wrapping an arm around her daughter's shoulders. She smiles. "How are you getting on? Have you found transport?" Startled, you explain the frustrations of the situation. "I'd tried Mr. Winters in the village hall. He's always after an afternoon. You'll be hungry by now. Help yourself to any food in the house. The door's not locked." You glance at Ruth, where she has squirreled herself behind her mother's leg. Her eyes implore you to silence. If you ask Ruth about what she said, go to number 9. If you ask May about what Ruth said, go to number 15. If you say nothing, go to number 22. Say nothing? Say nothing. Loose lips sink ships. Number 22. You take your leave of the Ledbetters and head towards their house. The door opens easily. In the low kitchen, you make a meal from stodgy bread and leftover stew. A little window offers a view to the mountains. If you learned one thing this morning, it was that Emberhead's streets hold little to occupy the visitor from out of town. But there are still about 5 hours of daylight remaining. You could take some provisions and the bare essentials from your luggage and set out in the hopes of reaching another settlement before dark. Or you could ask advice from this Mr. Winters. If you prefer and walk out of town, go to number 28. If you head to the village hall instead, go to number 11.
Since we were told not to run away by the man with half a face, and we were told to run away by Ruth. The half-faced man seemed to have more threat behind it, so I think we should probably stay for at least tonight.
Mm-hmm. We can run in the morning when we have more daylight.
And after we find out what he has to say, if we do that.
So go to 11? Stick around, go to the village hall instead?
Yes.
All right. Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally, and that's what I was thinking. I went down his thought path. He
Yep.
just said it out loud.
All right. Number 11. The village hall overlooks the lower north ridge of the village. You walk along Silbury Street to find it, conscious of the oppressive black metal structure framed at the end of the road. The shutters of the hall are open and some windows left ajar. There is no knocker, but a little bell over the entrance tinkles as you push the front door. Inside, a sturdy door to your right is marked Private. To your left, an opening leads through to a bright room. You take a few steps inside. Benches line the walls, and there are 2 notice boards mounted between the windows. To examine the notice boards, go to 17. To knock on the closed door, go to number 24. Which would you prefer to do?
Examine the boards? Sure.
Examine the notice boards, we will go to number 17. Number 17. The floorboards creak beneath you as you cross the room. You feel a slight spring in your step. Perhaps this room is used as a gymnasium for the village children. One notice board appears to be for the adults of the community and one for the children. The former looks neglected, featuring handwritten advertisements for household items and a yellowed note about telegraph pricing. There's nothing about the festival. The children's notice board has a schedule for weekly creche act services and a number of paintings obviously done by the children themselves. Most are incoherent, thoughtful color. As best as you can tell, they depict fireworks, or perhaps the tale of Joseph from the book of Genesis. One has lost a pin and hangs upside down. It shows a giant bird attacking Emberhead, or it might simply be that the artist has not yet mastered the subtleties of scale. Make a spot hidden roll. If you succeed, go to 30. If you fail, go to 37. Spot hidden roll.
No!
So you have a 50% chance?
Yeah.
What'd you roll?
52.
Wow, wow, wow.
I shouldn't have done it.
We will go to
Today.
37.
Oh, I watched that big Captain Dover.
Number 37. The door scrapes behind you. A middle-aged, bespectacled gentleman appears in the doorway. May I help you? You explain you are visiting on May Ledbetter's recommendation. Ah, well, I'm Clyde Winters. I'm not sure I can help you, but would you care for some coffee? I'm partial to a cup in the afternoon. He gestures to the open door behind him. This seems like a worthwhile opportunity, and you are a little thirsty. Go to 43.
By the way, you hit the number I had set in my head for you to be able to do that.
Number 43. You step through the door marked private. The other side of the village hall is in marked contrast to the public space. The room is compact, lined with shelves of books and file alcoves. One corner is reserved for a tiny pantry and what is presumably a water closet. You study Mr. Winters as he fills the percolator. Although thin on top, his hair is oiled and neatly swept back. His suit is a sober affair and well-tailored, even if the cut is a little old-fashioned. A lesser man working alone might have loosened his bow tie for comfort. On the desk against the opposite wall, you notice what looks like a telegraph set. To ask about the telegraph immediately, go to 56. To make small talk with Mr. Winters first, go to 49.
I don't know.
Small talk.
Small talk it is. Number 49. The pot begins to gurgle as you exchange pleasantries with Winters. Living here, it's a trade-off like so much in life. He looks past you at a high shelf. I could wish for access to a proper library, of course, but I know myself well enough. I'm strictly a dabbler in the cities. His face wrinkles in distaste. Too many people, everybody rushing and shouting. We have a special place here in Emberhead, and someone must accept responsibility for keeping it so. That was my father before me, and now the duty falls to me. He lifts his chin and straightens up. This evening, as the sun sets, look out at the landscape around the village. We have peace up here, halfway to the stars. Are we not privileged? Is this not worth the hardships we must accept? He looks at you speculatively. This seems a good time to ask about the telegraph. Go to 56. Number 56. The telegraph? Much as we value our isolation, we do need the link sometimes. You were hoping to send a message? I must apologize. The line has been down for 2 weeks. I reported the fault, but of course they're not so speedy when the problem lies in rural areas. I'm expecting a repair the next day after next. I do appreciate how frustrating this must be. The coach is due in, 3 days? But I think he's going west. Perhaps you might engage a wagon. One of the farmers might. You explain that you have asked a few of the residents already, but to no avail. I tell you what. Winters pours you a steaming cup of coffee. The dark liquid smells rich and strong. When the repair crew arrives, I'll ask them to take you back with them. How would that be? They might want $1 or $2 to grease the wheels. The day after tomorrow, it's less than ideal, but it's the first real opportunity you've had. To thank Winters and leave, go to 180. To ask about his library, go to 62.
Yep.
Which one?
Keep going.
Okay, which is it? Winters and the library, or ask about his library? Sorry. To thank Winters and leave, or ask about the library?
To leave.
To leave. Okay, 180. You're not interested in more info, huh? Okay. 180. As the light fades, you return to the Ledbetter house and eat a light supper. May is unusually taciturn. Ruth's eyes flick to yours several times during the meal. There is an urgency there you cannot quite interpret. Afterwards, May ushers the girl into their room. You have been in Emberhead for barely 1 whole day, and you already feel confined by it, both geographically and socially. The evening seems to offer little. To do some stargazing, go to 131. To attempt to speak to Ruth, go to 138. If you have a previous appointment, this is the time to follow it up.
Okay, 20 back from where we are right now.
I thought it was.
I thought it was add 20.
Yeah, I thought it was add 20.
It said add 20, I thought.
Oh, add 20. Oh yeah, add 20 to the current number.
Okay.
Sorry, I said back. I said forward.
All right. So you head on out. Number 200. Arbogast is not at the appointed meeting place. You give him 10 minutes, but he doesn't show. You curse the old crank and head back towards May's house. Psst! A hand snakes from a doorway and grabs your arm. You jump at the sight of the half-face glimpsed in starlight. One of them's near, he whispers. Watching. Come with me. Go to 169. Excuse me. Number 169. Arbogast leads you across the thoroughfares, slipping between houses. The metal structure looms at the end of the street. Silent now, he says, but the beacon will come alive tomorrow night. He ushers you into a little alcove behind the village school. Arbogast glances behind you, then sits down. Again you feel uncomfortable in proximity to that scarred visage. One melted eyelid lifts. You don't have long. Understand this. I was the conduit, the interpreter. Before that fool Winters and his fancy words. The things which come to Emberhead care not for words. Those idiots think this is a ritual of sacrifice. He spits on the grass. It is a ritual of control. They know the words, but they do not comprehend the forces they call. He sniffs and sits back. No, you have no time for more questions. I will teach you how to end it in the moment when all is lost. You can return to this hill to the north, to the death that came 40 years ago. I have tried it myself, but... He hangs, his head sags. I no longer have the concentration. The chant is simple. It I can teach you, but you must perform it with a clarity of mind that I have lacked for years. If you will learn the strange chant, go to 175. If you've had enough of Arbogast, go to 182.
Go on, learn the strange chant.
Yeah, well, that's a chant.
All right. Ananathrakus was herfut dot yertienbe. Number 175.
That's on the came in my head.
Number 175. You feel very dislocated from reality as you sit on a cliff top behind a school at night, learning a chant by rote from a madman. Arbogast is careful to teach you it in sections. He glances into the sky. Won't work right now. Cloud covering the star. But he still takes care not to pronounce the whole thing at once. It has a rhythmic beginning and various elaborations, but the core passage is repeated 3 times. Fungli ngadnaf Cthulhu formahat nga nafen tagen ia Cthulhu. In time, Arbogast listens to your recital and nods. Remember every sound, but never speak it if you have plans left on this earth. You have discovered a secret. If your situation ever becomes desperate enough to try Arbogast's ritual, the text will offer you the option to chant. At that point, if you want to try it, add 10 to your current entry number and go to that new entry. Arbogast leans back. It will make you one with the living. Go to 188. There's a dash. Something suddenly happens. (188). A black shape lunges from the dark. It wraps an arm around Arbogast's throat and drags him backwards out of the alcove. He grabs at the arm, kicking empty air. You see the gleam of a long blade in the moonlight. Make a dodge roll. If you succeed, go to 195. If you fail, go to 203. What's your dodge?
35.
Okay.
35.
Close. So succeed, 195. Very, very close. 195. A second figure swings at you with some kind of blunt weapon. You shove it aside and scramble out, trying to find a more defensible position. A gurgle draws your attention. Arbogast has a hand clapped to his neck. Blood drip... Childhood warning here. Blood drips between the fingers and spills from his mouth. His assailant stabs again, the wet blade slicing Arbogast's wrist even as it sinks into his neck. You see faces now, low faces daubed in some kind of tarry substance, eyes gleaming with hatred. Arbogast shoves his attacker off, staggering back, more blood cascading down his arm. The old half-man has willpower. He plants his feet and raises a hand. Make a sanity roll. If you succeed, go to 210. If you fail, go to 217.
What do we have to get for sanity?
49.
37. We got it.
All right, so succeed.
Oh, I threw it like way up.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, as long as it's below the number.
Number 210.
We're finding successful.
Arbogast howls a choked, wet sound. He stabs his palm forward, fingers curled in a strange gesture. Fire springs from the ground at his feet, a flickering blue wave. It rushes in a stream, as if following a line of gasoline, directly towards each attacker. Hungry, it climbs their clothing. They shriek as the flames touch their flesh. Arbogast drops to one knee. His face is pale in the illumination from the fires. His head hangs forward. Yet even as his hand shudders, his eyes are alight with intractable will. The assailants scream as they flee in different directions, eerie light playing off the buildings as they pass. They leave behind a terrible pungency of seared flesh. Tiny shoots of fire danced in the grass for seconds longer, then vanish. Arbogast drops. Go to 236.
Yep, that's what they're doing. I'm moving around so much.
Number 236. The blood flow from the wounds in Arbogast's neck has slowed to a trickle. His breath is shallow and fleeting. You can see his situation is hopeless. His eyes flutter, then close as life departs. You mark a moment in respect. However, the attackers may come back. Whom can you trust in this village? By the way, they keep saying who. I'm correcting it with whom each time they do that incorrectly. To fetch May here, go to 242. To return to the Ledbetter house and say nothing about the situation, go to 157.
157?
157.
Say nothing, no nothing.
Do everything.
Number 157. The familiar surroundings of your guest room are becoming constrictive. The neat bed, small wardrobe, and dressing mirror have the feel of a prison cell about them. What are you still doing here in Emberhead? Your new life is elsewhere. You lie on the bed and stare at a small crack in the ceiling. You turn over the day's events, thinking through the little details you spotted. You are certainly weary from the elevation and the fresh air, but do you still feel safe here? If you let yourself fall asleep, go to 224. If you stay awake, go to 230.
Do you think he'd sleep?
I don't think he'd sleep. I don't know if I want to sleep.
So you just saw somebody die and a couple others get scorched.
I was like, I don't think he'd sleep.
So stay awake, 230.
Yep.
All right.
Sweet dreams.
Yeah. Sweet dreams are not made of this.
I mean, it is Cthulhu.
That's right. Number 230. Sleep presses down on you. You blink it back and sit up, trying to think through your situation. Everything in Emberhead seems to be working to stop you leaving. Perhaps the answer is to strike out at first light, to walk as far and as fast as you can. You can always return for your possessions, and if you lose them, you have nothing so precious that it could not be replaced. A tiny creak draws your attention to the other side of the room. Slowly, almost silently, the doorknob is turning.
Hit the floor.
To grab it and wrench the door open, go to 248. To pretend to be asleep, 254.
Hiding beside your bed is not an option.
Nope. It's a disadvantage of...
Close out a window.
Nope. 2 choices. Forced choice.
Guess the doorknob? I don't know. I don't like this. I don't like either option.
You
I
have to
was
pick
gonna go
one.
with sleep.
Okay.
Let's go with
I'm
sleep.
going to sleep.
Pretend to be asleep?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
alright.
definitely have our gun. If we had an option of that.
You can probably do it.
So pretend to be asleep, number 254.
Because we didn't buy the knife. Maybe we would have had an option with that. So we can substitute with our gun.
Number 254. You slide onto the bed and lie on your side, eyes closed. The hinges creak as the door opens. There's a long pause. A footfall sounds inside the room. Then another. The steps are careful and feminine. You give it a moment, then open one eye a crack. May crouches with her back to you. She is fiddling with something in the fireplace. To confront May, go to 260. To wait and see what happens, go to 266.
I don't know. Reckless?
Yeah, so I guess we confront her.
Yeah.
Go to 260. May jumps as you swing your legs off the bed and speak. I thought you might be cold, she stammers. Thought I would light the fire. She sweeps something away with the hand behind her. You stare, but can see nothing in the grate. I shouldn't have disturbed you. I'm sorry. She stands to leave. You may make an intimidate roll. If you succeed, go to 19. If you fail, go to 32. So intimidate roll. What is your intimidate?
Do we want to intimidate?
That's the only option.
I thought it said you.
No, you may make an intimidate roll. If you succeed, go to 19. If you fail, go to
May
32.
doesn't mean anything. In
Yeah.
Apparently not.
I know.
So it's 15.
Yep. This isn't going to go well. I was right.
What'd you get?
89.
Okay, so that would be a fail. So we go to number 32.
It's getting intense.
Number 32. Anger flashes in May's eyes. Would you strike a woman in her own house? She snaps. 18 people live on the street. If I scream, every one of them will come running. She scrambles from the guest room and into her bedroom. You consider pursuing the issue, but decide against it. To secure your door with a chair and get some sleep, go to 58. To stay awake all night, 52.
Well, I don't think we should stay awake all night. That's probably not good.
So, chair?
Yeah, because the festival's tomorrow. Right?
So, secure the door with a chair and get some sleep.
Yeah.
Okay, number 58.
Yay!
It's Cthulhu.
There's worse things than dying in Cthulhu.
I know.
Number 58. You awaken to the sound of feet in the street outside. Your night's rest has brought a new determination. Today you will meet Emberhead on your own terms. You may restore 1 hit point if you've been wounded, then go to 64.
It's not been wounded.
Yep. Number 64. The Ledbetter kitchen is empty, although bread and eggs have been laid out for your breakfast. There is a note from May explaining that she has taken Ruth out for a few hours. If you were involved in a fight in the village last night and want to investigate the aftermath, go to 70. Otherwise, go 78. So it'd be 70 if you want to investigate. Do you or not?
Sure.
You don't have to. You can choose not to.
Run, but that's not an option.
So which is it?
Investigate?
Well, I mean, you don't have to investigate. You could say otherwise, go to 78.
Oh, you're an investigator.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're going to investigate.
Sure. That's a good decision.
Number 70. You feel skittish as you approach the spot where you and Arbogast were attacked. Your memory of the encounter is shaky, but you remember 1 or 2 vivid images. At first you think there is nothing to see, no discarded weapons or figures lying unconscious, but upon closer examination you find sticky, congealed patches and blackened lines in the grass. If the village had a police station, you could go there, but something tells you events have gone beyond that. Go to number 78. Number 78. You make a quiet circuit of the village, pausing in unobtrusive places to watch the villagers. It is rather busy for this time in the morning. Yawning locals stream back and forward along the roads, carrying bundles of split logs to the site of what you've heard referred to as the beacon. You see 2 figures already up in its superstructure arranging the wood. The festival bonfire will be most impressive. But do you intend to stay to see it? You suspect by now that something is amiss here. While the villagers are distracted, you may do some illicit investigation, or you may simply leave town without looking back. So that's what you guys are hoping for. So you may now search May Ledbetter's bedroom, go to number 83. Go alone to the village hall, go to 126. Take a closer look at the artisan's courtyard, go to 219. Spy on activity at the beacon, go to 229. Slip down to the east road and flee for good, go to number 7.
7.
I mean, sure, it's not like Cthulhu's gonna get mad at us or anything for running away. Right?
What's it going to be?
Yeah, I was thinking either that one or the spawning on people.
I think 7 would be probably.
Okay, we're gonna run away.
All right. Bravely run
No.
away?
No.
Chickened out. Turned his tail and fled. All right.
I just saw people die.
Number 7. As you approach the southern road that descends to the lower ridge, you see 4 villagers blocking the route with farm tools and clubs. You veer off and head towards the west road. Your heart sinks as you see exactly the same scene as the other exit from the village. You are trapped. To try to talk your way past one of the guard groups, go to 119. To try to slip past in disguise, go to 125. Or, do you know another way to leave the village?
Apparently not.
No? Apparently we don't have that clue. That clue.
3 different characters, so 119, 125. Try to talk your way past or slip past in disguise.
Okay.
Skills would be used.
Fast talk is 0.25%.
Disguise is also 05%. Dang it. Do we have to do one of them?
It's my turn to roll.
Oh, yeah. You can just roll the 10s, and if it's not a 0, then you don't have to roll the 1. I feel like talking would be better because we don't have to because if you're going in disguise and they catch you, it's pretty obviously that you're trying to get past them. If you're talking.
You're just like, hey,
Yeah,
what's going
up?
on?
Yeah.
I saw you guys out here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do.
So try to talk your way past? All right, 119. Number 119. The southern group appears less sharp than the western group. You stride up to them and explain they are needed at their beacon. They look dubious. You offer to watch the road for them and hold your hand out for a pitchfork. Nah, you come with us, says the first one. His ape-like brow bends into a frown. Make an extreme fast talk roll. This is a roll equal to or less than 1/5 of the skill value. If the number in the lower right-hand box. If you succeed, go to 132. If you fail, go to 139. So your fast talk extreme.
There's 1.
1%.
Yeah.
We didn't get it.
What'd you get?
56.
All right. So that would be a failure. So we go to 139.
After all that.
Number 139. These locals are not as stupid as you think. They grab you and march you back into the center of the village. Go to 108. That can't be good.
We didn't think they were stupid.
We just didn't think they were smart.
Number 108. The fading light from a narrow window tells you afternoon is giving way to evening. Your hands are shackled behind your back, so you cannot even lie down on the rough bed. A woman you have not seen before comes in. Her face is wrinkled and her eyes dull. They do not meet yours, but she puts a cup to your lips. To accept the drink, go to 104. To reject it, go to 113. What's it gonna be?
Reject it?
What's it gonna be? Reject it?
Yeah.
That was a question, not a statement. I'm waiting for your statement.
Yeah.
Okay. Reject it. We go to 113.
Yeah, you did. You gave him just another question mark. Rejected.
Number 113. You turn your face away, and when she tries again, you dash the cup from her hands using the side of your head. The clear liquid spills across the floor. The woman gives you a half shrug, turns to leave the room. You shout after her, but she gives no reaction. You soon become thirsty. Go to 205. You never know, right?
It's like when Dan gave us the food, do a constitution check.
Just an awful and awesome thing to do to your party.
Tastes good.
Number 205. As the light fades outside, your little prison becomes dark. You can hear much activity around the building. Occasionally, an orange glow passes the window. The only comfortable position in the shackle seems to be to sit against the end of the bed with your arms hanging behind you. You need to concentrate and come up with a plan. There is clearly no escape from your bonds. You do not know exactly what your captors want from you, but you cannot ignore the fact that they have spent the entire day constructing a massive bonfire.
Start chanting.
Go to number 27.
All is bleak.
Well, let's see. You want to start chanting?
Is that really a thing?
I don't know. You said add 10?
No. That's
No,
Add
it's when
20?
it
it
asks.
offers.
Oh, that's the offer. I was just wondering. Okay. Okay, so you got 27. All right. Number 27. The door scrapes, wrenching you back into the moment. Orange light spills in the house from blazing torches held at the threshold. Two large villagers step in and grab you. At least, you assume they are villagers. They wear heavy black cloaks, and their faces and hands are painted entirely black, save only for a red triangle centered on their left eye. You try to drag your legs, but they reach under your arms and lift you bodily from the bed. Outside, it seems that the whole village has congregated to see you. Every single one has a blackened face with the red triangle motif. Torches sputter and spill free. You struggle, but you can see physical resistance is hopeless. You are marched to the central street and turn to face the beacon. Go to 117. I would imagine this is going to end well. Number 117. The procession down the approach is slow and formal, save when you sense weakness and yank at your captors. A chill touches you when you see 3 human shapes carried ahead of you draped in red cloth. The beacon looms larger and larger, its dreadful silhouette a black triangle pointed to the stars. Oh, I'm not answering. A low drone begins amid the cloaked figures, unbidden. The word mourners come to mind. Smoke from their torches make you cough. You feel heat on your face. As you reach the cleared area around the beacon, the 3 dancers break from the pack, young girls swinging balls of fire in spectacular arcs, drawing circles in the night air. One by one, they draw close to you and touch your forehead with sooty fingers. Each kisses you 3 times on the left cheek, right cheek, then forehead. Then they whisper in your ear. The smell of kerosene fills your nostrils. Make an appearance roll. If you succeed, go to 10. If you fail, go to 148.
50.
50, okay.
Oh.
Dang it. 56.
Okay. Definitely not been doing well on the rolls.
Nope.
I must have infected you all, like the tendrils of Cthulhu.
Well, and I was rolling really good for when I was rolling for characters today, but obviously that did not.
Wasn't sustainable.
No, when I was rolling for my monsters, I was swinging swords.
Number 148. Through your sacrifice, the village will be reborn, says the first dancer. You pass from earth to air for all our sakes, says the second. Through incandescence may you find rapture, says the third. Their dance weaves off and disappears behind the buildings. Go to 18.
Fun.
Not with our rolls.
Number 18. As you arrive beneath the beacon, 10 villagers close in on you. Working with surprising coordination, they immobilize you and lift you up the blackened iron stairs to the raised platform. You cannot help but shiver at the sight of the central framework twisted from past blazes and what you can now clearly see to be fastening points for chain. None of the eyes meet yours as they lash you to the metal. The village sings now, something rhythmic and ancient, carved from odd syllables. A second group ascends to the beacon, carrying the 3 red-draped bodies. With reverence, they arrange their burdens in a triangle around your feet. Then they withdraw, leaving you alone with the dead, shin-deep in a sea of kindling. Go to 33. Number 33. It seems the entire village is gathered around the beacon to watch you burn. Behind the face paint, you recognize May Ledbetter, and yes, that is Silas, the coach driver, standing at her side. The audacity and scale of the deception staggers you. A man steps up on a dais and raises his hands with quiet authority. The frame of his spectacles obscures the red triangle on his face. So we draw here together again on this night, as we do each year, and give thanks to the one who will preserve the village against the fire of the void. You will be taken by the ones from above in our stead. Your death will bring life to our streets and bounty to our fields. It will safeguard our children and our elders alike for another year. We salute you. He bows his head. All around the beacon, bearers step forward and lift their torches to the edge of the raised platform. A ring of tiny flames flicker up around the perimeter. As they wink, the singing of the villagers drops into an unearthly rhythm. To throw all your remaining strength against the bonds, go to 44. To wait and see what happens, go to 40.
I think, would this be the point where we'd start chanting?
Well, let's say we could chant. And it, like, with the, if we had if we knew something and we could chant, it would just say, now is the time. And then we would just go to Reader's Pay. That's when we learn how many pages we're supposed to go ahead.
Or numbers. So should we?
I don't see any.
Actually, no, you can. No, not yet. Not yet. Next, you'll be okay. Depends on what you choose. Anyway, 44 or 40. Remaining strength against the bonds, or wait and see what happens.
Bonds?
I would, sure.
Because I mean that sounds more like.
Because at least
Nevada.
you're accomplishing something that's nothing. So yeah.
Okay, number 44. You're tired, and your flesh ought to be insufficient against the dark iron of the chains, yet you can feel them give a little. There is a weakness in one of the links. Make a hard strength roll. If you succeed,
12.
go to 53. If you fail, go to 40.
12.
No, I thought that's extreme.
Hard?
Hard is 30.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So then,
What'd you get?
92.
So that would be a fail.
Sure.
You guys have had a lot of those on these rolls. Definitely made your life more difficult. Number 40. The flames snake across the kindling, catching and rising. Smoke rises and it becomes difficult to see the villagers. The 3 bodies surrounding you catch fire, blazing with sooty red flames. You begin to cough as the smoke enters your lungs and fight down the urge to panic. If you have learned a strange chant and wish to try it, this is the moment. Otherwise, go to 65.
Strange chant.
Chant.
Alrighty then. Well, chant it is. What could possibly go wrong? Number 50. The flames draw closer as you bring Arbogast's chant to mind. It's hard to clear your head as the heat grows beneath your feet. You cough and splutter, but you sustain the words. Finally, you reach the key passage, and even as your clothes catch fire, you yell for the third time, Nglunof, Kuthuga, Formahat Ugaga, Nafalthach, Ia Kuthuga. Go to 270.
Ooh, 270.
That's the very last entry in here.
Sweet.
Okay.
270. The swirling tongues of fire around you stop in midair. The people around the beacon freeze, their black-painted faces bleached and stripped as a second sun opens in the air above Emberhead. In an instant, the people, the village, the hill, all are consumed, incinerated by impossible proximity to sheer combustion, the essence of fire. Though your body is bound to the beacon, your being is freed. As a spark, you race into space, catapulted through the vastness of the void. The stars burn past you with incomprehensible velocity, and then you are home. Forever you will dwell here, at Formalhaut, where the flames ripple and flow through immense spaces to the rhythms of the universe, where planets themselves move and tilt through unutterable wheels of fire, bound to the clockwork chaos of the living flame. And among the flames, you will dance. You have single-handedly destroyed a section of New Hampshire about 16 miles in diameter. This also killed you. The end.
Die.
You destroyed 16 square miles of New Hampshire.
Sweet.
By the way, two of my sons are living in New Hampshire right now, by the way.
Now they're not.
So, that's just one of many possible outcomes, because you had a lot of bad rolls there. That definitely cost you.
Yeah,
What did you think of that experience?
I find that the games where it's percentile, where it's just a level below, it's a lot tougher to actually succeed.
At first. As you level up, it gets better.
Well, do we level?
Yeah, so when you succeed, so as you get into the actual rules, assuming they haven't changed it, when you actually get into it and you succeed, you put a little chip mark by it, and slowly you accumulate basically points that you can raise those percentages.
Okay.
Not to mention things that you do, as you saw, can raise the percentages, like your Cthulhu knowledge, things like that. So there's no levels. It's a level-less system. Mm-hmm. It is your skills develop over time, and so you get a lot better over time.
Because most of our things are below a 50% chance of actually succeeding. Yeah, which doesn't
that's
help
starting out. That's the joys of first level. I mean, if you do the math on a level system like D&D and such, you're in a similar boat for a lot of things. So I personally like this. This is based on the BRP, Basic Roleplay System, or BURP, as opposed to GURPS. It's BURP, and GURPS is a pretty. They're both flexible, generic, systems that can be used in lots of genres, but I find BURP to be a lot more accessible than GURPS. GURPS tends to be a little more technical. I don't have a problem with either one, but for other people, BURPs people pick up a lot faster than GURPS. It seems. GURPS has a lot more options. There's a lot more books for GURPS than for BURP. And BURP tends to be like there's the core system you can buy, but for the most part you buy whatever it is for that particular setting. And it hasn't changed that much. So yes, this is 7th edition. They refined it, but the core system looks pretty much the same to me as it has all along. Mm-hmm. I have some very early Cthulhu and such from the 80s, and it hasn't changed that much. How do you feel about the way they introduce you to the system bit by bit so far?
I like it. It makes it so that people who might be overwhelmed by jumping in and having to read, you almost have to read 2 or 3 books from front to back covered
with most games, yeah, to be able to. Now we'll have to at some point check out the jamming. I'm afraid the jamming is not going to hold your hand the way the playing did, because it says read all the way through book 2. Now book 2 is only like 17 pages. It's not that big, but and this is the basic set, obviously not the advanced one. Yeah. So we'll have to delve into that another time, but it says you have to read it through first, so that means prep, as opposed to Frank Metzer's version where here's so you've seen how the play. It's not much different in the play version. It slowly adds a stat at a time and etc. So it's very similar. You do like 2 or 3 adventures there. Then the Dungeon Master's Guide for the basic system from 1983, to run people through the first time, it says, the following adventure is designed for use by a beginning Dungeon Master. It will tell you what to say to the players, when and what to roll, and includes page references for additional information. Before you start, you should look through the rest of this booklet to see what information is given. One section called Procedures and Rules, pages 14 to 21, gives details on handling most situations. Retainers should not be needed if there are 4 or more players, but if you need them, be sure they are properly handled, page 20. The order of events checklist will be helpful during the game. Monsters and treasures are explained afterwards in separate sections. All the details on the monsters and treasures found in this adventure are fully explained here, and you will not need to refer to those sections. Before you start the game, make sure all the pre-game details have been handled using the pre-game checklist. So they have a nice pre-game checklist here. 1. Do all the players know how to play? So they all played the solo adventure in the player's manual. Right? That introduces them. Number 2. Have you read this book up to this point? Like literally to this point. Have you read it to this point? That's it. That's all it says. You don't have to read ahead. Have you read it to this point? Have you looked through the rest of this booklet? So just kind of skim through to see where things are. You don't have to read it. You just need to know where things are. Do you and the players know the who, why, what, when, where, when of the adventure? That'll happen as you read it. Number 4. Are all the characters ready to go, including equipment? Have the players chosen a caller and a mapper? That's specified in the player thing. Do they have a piece of graph paper and a pencil to map with? If any answer is no, stop and fix the problem. In this adventure, you will find many sections to be read to the players. Listen to them while you are reading. They contain information for you, too. Whenever you read a paragraph that starts with DM: it contains information for you only. Stop for a minute and read it. The DM information contains instructions on how to run the coming encounter or how to handle a new situation. You don't have to read ahead. You don't have to prepare in advance, study ahead or anything. You can jump straight in. So I don't think they quite do that on the DM, on the Keeper side here yet, but we don't know. Well, I mean, let me take a look at what Book 2 says. And I guess the adventure book. So I think Book 2 just goes in a little bit more of the rules. And we're going to wrap up here. Okay, what is called Cthulhu, player roles, concepts of the game, Cthulhu mythos, mystery and investigations, kind of a repeat of the other booklet. Create an investigator, step 1. Introductory rules, investigator characteristics, secondary characteristics, occupation and skills, sample investigator occupations, skill descriptions, step 4, backstory, step 5, final touches. This is all just character creation, which is fine. Game system, skill rolls and difficulty levels, opposed skill rolls, bonus and penalty dice, luck rolls, sanity, bouts of madness table, sanity table, hit points, wounds, and healing, other forms of damage, rewards of success, next steps, Call of Cthulhu Keeper Rulebook, Investigator's Handbook, Keeper Screen Pack, Doors to Darkness, quick reference chart for okay. So that's just mostly pretty much how to make a character. So let's see what Book 3 is like. Introduction. These scenarios are designed for new keepers and players. Keeper notes, advice for the keeper on how and when to use dice and rules, as well as guidance on how to run the scenarios are included in the text. Once you have read through a scenario and your players have each chosen a ready-made investigator character or created their own, you are ready to begin. We suggest you play through the adventures in the order presented, beginning with Paper Chase, which is suitable for a single player, plus the keeper, then moving onto Edge of Darkness, suitable for 2 to 5 players plus the keeper, and finally Dead Man's Stomp for 2 to 5 players plus the keeper. Preparing for play. It's important to read through a scenario first before running it for your players. So that fails there. Pay attention to sections marked Keeper Information or Keeper Note, as these contain advice on the rules or secrets the players do not know but may discover during play. At the start of each of the scenarios is a short premise which is told to the players. For Paper Chase, it says, you have been contacted, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so it has little things to read, a little bit of info about ready-made investigators. Scenario 1, Paper Chase, Keeper Information background. player information, start asking around the neighborhood. So it's more open-ended. I mean, that's the advantage of you pre-reading it, as opposed to going through step by step. It's going to be a lot less railroady. And then but you've got to know all the stuff. So for a beginning person who's never GM'd before and never played under a GM before, that is going to be daunting. Not impossible. Lots of us did overcome that in the past. It is possible to take it on. But once again, so I think they do a great start with the player side. I think they get it. They follow the 1983 Frank Metzer model, and I think they've did okay with that. I think they could have had a little less, like they had an awful lot of flipping the pages that you didn't have any control. And that's not entirely different than the Frank Metzer model either, although they tend to be smaller and there's a little bit less page flipping. But and it also includes map making and everything too. It helps you with the maps and all that too. It actually teaches you how to do proper map making for a dungeon. But I'd say for the player side, I think they got it. None of the other, I haven't seen any others that have done that with the player introduction. So I'd say they got the player side. But I think they're still falling short on the DM side for a true introductory set. What do you think? Yeah. Okay. So, because I keep hoping that somebody gets it, that this is going to be the most effective model to introduce new people, right? I mean, if you don't have anybody else to start with, this is how you get new people into the hobby. Without and especially with people's shorter attention spans these days, all the more reason to just get them straight in. Like, hey, I got this new box game for Christmas. Everybody want to play it tomorrow? Right? You know, Christmas Eve or Christmas or whatever. You and your family can sit down and play through. Like when you get a board game, you quickly skim through the rules, but basically you jump in and try to play the game. Everybody gets into it right away. They don't want to spend days preparing for it for the first time. Once you get hooked, then you're willing to do that more work. But it needs to be layered up. And this is what's still missing from too many games. And so I'd say for this, they unfortunately aren't being a good starter kit. I mean, it's still helpful as a starter kit. It gives you a lot of hand-holding.
I think it's a lot better than
like Star Wars and some of the others. Yeah. I agree, it's better, but it isn't that hard.
Well, I mean,
to make a railroady adventure.
The only ones that I have come across to do it are kids ones.
Right.
So No Thank You Evil hold your hand the entire time through even most of the other adventures.
Yeah, well, it's also geared for little kids to run it too. But yeah, so unfortunately, I'd say part one, bringing the players on board from scratch, does a good job. Part two, it's like the others. Yeah, it's it's introductory level. It's a basic version of the rules, but it's still not fundamentally enough for somebody who has never GM'd before. And it's going to be more difficult for people to take on the first time. Not insurmountable, but they could manufacturers, publishers could make this that much more accessible. And maybe it's something we're going to have to do at some point to get a clue out to people. I don't know.
How to play.
From how to GM, step by step, hold your hand, follow the Frank Metzer model. It's a choose your own adventure GMing experience, kind of like I do with you guys, where I will read to you a section and then say, what do your players do? It's the same way, just with a little bit more freedom, but we follow, and there's a written rule that says, don't deviate from this because this is our first time. So you guys all agree to that. Like, well, we only have limited choices, but that's because we're learning. Everybody agrees to that. So anyway, I'm glad to see progress in that direction for trying to bring new people in, but it's not quite there yet on the GM side. But there we go, and it's 3:38, so that's within the ballpark of time that we expected. Alas, the audience wasn't the size that it started out. That was looking really promising there for a while, but pretty hard to compete with Zoe's content or just about anybody else's content since our stuff is dry. But I hope some of you enjoy this, especially Patreon supporters who will get this uploaded shortly after. Obviously, there'll be recorded versions, so you won't be able to do the vote that we are hoping you guys will be engaged in. But I hope you found it useful if you were just listening in the car or whatever. I hope you found it useful. Obviously, spoilers after the fact, all after the fact here. But
don't chant if you want to live.
Well, you would have burned anyway, but you wouldn't have taken everybody with you. So at least you took everybody out with you.
No one else will get trapped in the town by the dang sailors.
That's true. That's true. It'll no
That's-
longer. That's true. It'll no longer be a danger.
Probably less. If they're only killing one person a year, it's probably less people than the amount of people in the town we just killed. And
There
everyone
is
in the
that.
16 square
They
miles.
get all your character sheets. Okay,
Yeah,
Good.
I think.
All right. All right. Well, thank you guys for doing this. This would have been a lot worse just doing it all by myself, especially since I didn't have the audience I was hoping for. So thank you for participating and helping make the choices, and I hope you had fun with that. Commentary on the way it was presented.
No, I thought it was good.
Okay.
I love choose your own adventures of any form. So.
All right. Well, then that's it for now. That's it for today. Tomorrow we'll be back Sunday, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. with our weekly Heroes of the Mist live interactive audience actual play AD&D First Edition homebrew multiverse campaign Worlds of Beirut, but the campaign is Heroes of the Mist. And if you hang out in the chat room then, that's when you can earn your hero points and you can actually spend those points to affect the actual players here. So check out mistheroes.com for the website info and the characters and the catalog of what you can gain and spend points on. And then Monday we'll be back 6 to 9 p.m. and Riley here will be jamming us through the new Paranoia. We played the old one during New Year's. Now we'll play the new one. Looking forward to that, Riley. You'll get to be here on the throne for the first time, I think, right? Yeah, very cool. Looking forward to that. Then Tuesday is our researchers meeting, 9 a.m. to noon. Wednesday is a day off from broadcasting, although I'm doing plenty of other things with interviews and everything. Thursday is 4 to 5, the RPG talk show, and then 6 to 9 will be actually our board. 6 to 10 will be our board meeting. It'll be our quarterly board meeting. We do broadcast that live, and the audience is welcome to participate and even engage. And you don't get an official vote, but you're welcome to vote. We value your input, and then the board makes the final decisions. But they do pay attention. They do pay attention to what you suggest in from the audience and other volunteers as well. Friday will be our drop-in and RPG at a random location, which I've got to hurry and get resolved between now and then. Check that out at dropinandrpg.com. And Saturday we'll be back again with our Game Masters Workshop, although we might be shifting. Depends on what we get worked out as far as the Valley and stuff by then. I suspect we're still going to be on the Saturday schedule for a few more weeks because it takes me a while to negotiate. Like last time with Spark, it took 2 or 3 months to get nailed down on a location or on a time and a day and time that would work for them, and we actually had to shift it once or twice. So it'll be the same thing here. I'll have to talk to them a bit. Now, I am still considering Shriners Hospital. I'm going to talk to them and see what their interest and availability is, in addition to stuff out in the Valley. I know for you that's easy because it's closer for you.
Shriners
Is that a problem for you?
The Valley is an hour away from the house.
Where do you live?
9 Mile Falls.
Okay, so
I live half an hour from here.
oh my!
The opposite
I
direction.
didn't realize it was that far for you. So is Shriners actually closer?
I don't
You know where Shriners is? It's right at the top of the hill, basically. When you go up by 90, on the left, it's like at the top of the hill there.
Oh, then probably.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see if they're interested in if timing and all of that. Well, I'm sorry if the Valley's going to. But so I want to make sure you get to do your PAS thing and the. Now we were still talking about doing a Sunday workshop or something like that, but is that something that's optional for you?
I don't do anything on Sundays.
Okay, so that's possible too. Okay, because I want to make sure you get to do what you've been training for all this time, like you did today finally, after all this time. You do need to work on your being jerky. You're just too nice when you're supposed to be being a jerk and domineering. But we'll work on that. You'll get that with practice, right? You'll get better. You'll get more ranks in jerk. Well, you know the old phrase, were you born a jerk or you just been working? I'm using nicer language here. Or have you been working at it? I've been working on it. I was born a nice guy. So, man, I wish the little bug zapper would get it.
I feel like
Just
that
the
fly's
one.
been in here for like a month.
Well, I killed several others off, so I don't
There's
know.
always like that single big one that just flies around.
Well, no, there were several others anyway. I don't know where they're coming from at all. I think it's because it gets warm in here and they're attracted from the outside or something. I don't know.
How are they surviving out
I don't know. It's very frustrating. We're in a garage here, and it's not exactly super sealed tight. So, all right. Well, thank you guys so much for doing this. I hope you had a good time. I enjoyed doing that with you. Wherever you may be well. Happy gaming. Namarie.
Goodbye.
Peace out.